Right. Okay. Lots happened since the last live stream last night. Obviously, we had the Champions League final in Kiev, finished 3-1, and it's the aftermath of the Champions League final that is most important here. Basically, the Liverpool goalkeeper Loris Karius has received a lot of death threats. He's been on Twitter, he's apologised, and there's been a lot of vile abuse aimed at him and his family, which is completely just disgusting. You just have to look at his Twitter feed and to see some of the vile responses from so-called fans. Completely disgusting responses from certain members of the fan base, and this is one of the reasons why Liverpool fans are not very well liked. Is a small minority ruin it for the majority of fans. Linked into the Champions League, there's a couple other stories that are coming out of it. Gareth Bale could be on the way out of Real Madrid. The way he gave his post-match press interview to BT Sport, he hinted at he wants to play more first, more starts. He wants to get to start more. He wants to get more minutes when he comes off the bench. And he had a veiled hint at wanting to come back to England or move somewhere else in Europe. If that is to happen, someone has got to pay an exorbitant amount of money, an almost extortionary level amount of money, in an over-inflated transfer market. I don't see that. There's one or two clubs that could do it, and they've already been investigated on financial fair play. But in linked to Bale leaving Real Madrid, Neymar is linked to joining Real Madrid from PSG. Bearing in mind he's been at PSG for a year. Again, record transfer signing. That's going to overinflate the transfer market yet further. These are rumours at the moment. It's the transfer season starting. These rumours will persist until the end of the transfer window, but they're being widely reported on a lot of sports sites. Ronaldo has also been rumoured at points this season not to be happy at Real Madrid. There's rumours that both he and Bale will leave to bring Neymar in. That is a lot of money to spend. He's basically saying Neymar is the best player in the world. There's a lot going on. I feel very sorry for Zinedine Zidane because he is the only manager to win 3 Champions League titles in a row. But he's got to juggle all these egos and all these highly paid players. He's got to keep them all happy. You can't. And Real Madrid have a habit of doing this, where they fail to keep star players happy for long enough and they move on to another club. If he lets Bale and Ronaldo go, I think that possibly weakens Real Madrid for the next 2-3 years. They are the core with Sergio Ramos of that leadership group at Real Madrid. If 1, 2, or all 3 of them feel that they have to leave, Real Madrid are in a lot of trouble. So that'll be interesting to see how all that develops. But back to Karius receiving the amount of death threats, it's absolutely disgusting. It's been reported widely. I think it was reported by the Telegraph. But very interesting to see that Sky News and BBC haven't really covered it. They haven't really given any, why should athletes have to suffer in silence from some real violent abuse? And we have precedent for violent action being taken against sportsmen. Andres Escobar. Just going to leave that at Andres Escobar when he was gunned down in Medellin in Colombia in '94, just after the World Cup, days after the final. Due to that, it's alleged due to the own goal he scored against United USA in the group stage at that World Cup. And there was links to the Medellin cartel, Pablo Escobar, his namesake. And there's been documentaries on it and research done, and there are strong links to say either the Medellin cartel or another one of the cartels murdered Andres Escobar in response to that own goal, or because of his links to the area of Medellin. But we've been here before. We've seen players have kidnap attempts against them before. We have had players whose relatives have been kidnapped for ransom before. This is serious. A lot of people just see it as harmless banter, or spur of banter. But in all honesty, it's reached a point now where football needs to take more of an action. The clubs themselves need to take more of an action against individuals who do such stuff, because I've seen his Twitter feed. It's vile what's on there. saying they hope his kid gets cancer and all that kind of stuff is disgusting. It has no place in any sport, let alone football. But there seems to be more and more of this happening. This is not the first time a player will receive death threats. It won't be the last, but it takes that one idiot to act upon those threats and carry out an audacious kidnap or assassination attempt against a player, and then the football associations have to take action. The videos today look really good. It must have been the lighting. Well, it's now getting, obviously, summer's really starting to kick in. I have had issues with the connectivity to the internet, and this isn't the best webcam on this laptop, but it does do its job. I'm on a I don't have a lot of high tech equipment like other YouTubers do. I don't have a studio, hence why you see me in different rooms in my house. You've seen me downstairs in a few live streams. I've had to move mid live streams before and give a guided tour of my upstairs and downstairs, which is not necessarily what I want to do. I try the best with what I've got. Yes, there's a lot I've had to discuss today. The things I have discussed is mostly to do with the Champions League final and the aftermath. But we've also got to discuss Rotherham United getting promoted. That is interesting because yet another playoff final goes down to the wire, and all the playoff finals seem to have a 2-1 scoreline for some reason, or a 1-0. It's one goal per game in it. But there's something else I want to talk about. I know it may not appeal to everyone, but the cricket and what happened with England over the last 4 days and how they've completely collapsed at the Test side and they're just hopeless. Very popular feedback from a lot of people in Pakistan on that video, and India as well. If you look at the cricket and how England have completely fallen apart over the last 18 months, home and away, and the fact they're relying on the young guy Bess, who's playing his first Test match. He's 20 years old. He hasn't long been playing professional cricket, and they're relying on a 20-year-old in his first Test match to try and dig them out of the hole they got themselves in by not playing appropriately or playing well enough. Shows poor leadership from the experienced players in that Test side. So Cook, Root, Bear, whoever it may be. Let's say Ben Stokes, and it shows a lack of moral leadership because they're overusing Jimmy Anderson. Stuart Broad got his first pair. That's 2 ducks in a row. That's 2 zeros, both innings. They've dropped Moeen Ali for some reason, and they're putting a lot of pressure on Joss Butler, who's been thrown under the bus before by the ECB, and this young guy Bess. If we play like that against India, we're going to lose the series 4-0, and and each Test match will be over 3 days, let alone 4. There is a lot to discuss in sport. I mean, Chris Froome won the Giro. Not that I'm over enthused with that. He still hasn't. Oh no, they were. I know you prefer the shorter formats of the game. And obviously, I was working on Thursday. That was when the first day of play was played, and I have the updates on my phone. A lot of the people I work with at the moment are sports mad. I work with a amateur ice hockey player whose partner plays for Basingstoke. He plays for Guildford. One of the guys I work with is a cricket fan, and I was keeping update with the score. So every time I had a tea break or a smoke break, I would tell him how we were doing, and it was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. The senior players are falling flat and are not performing. I think there's issues with a variety of things that are far deeper than just a loss of confidence, or we just haven't got a good enough group of players. I do think that's part of the problem is that golden generation we had between 2000, 2003 and I'll say 2013. A lot of them have retired or have, from Test cricket or cricket altogether. And some of the young guys coming through are getting thrown under the bus when they have a bad game. They're not being given time to develop into Test players, one-day players, or T20 players, and the ECB and the selectors just throw them under the bus, which destroys their confidence. And they keep tinkering with the lineup as well too much. If you've got an injury to a player, okay, just put in a fit player who can play the similar role as a number 3 batsman or an all-rounder or a fast bowler, spin bowler, wicketkeeper. Just do for like. Don't try and alter the lineup too much. But yeah, there's more reasons which I'll get into later in the live stream when more questions come through, because I want to say hello to some people here, because some people have got Legendary Gamer. Hello, Mike. I do appreciate you asking questions about England, but the Vegas Golden Knights coverage guy, you've got to check him out. If you want to know about ice hockey and see how passionate fans are, check this guy out. He's funny. Some of his sports banter pushes it a little bit with some of the trash talking, but it's funny because he means it in jest. But some fans have taken it the wrong way. Some fans have taken the trash talk a little bit to heart. I think that's something that some sports fans there needs to be a dividing line, and it sometimes get crossed. And we've seen that today with what happened to Karius, the Liverpool goalkeeper, after last night's Champions League final. Some of the vile threats against him and his family are just not acceptable. But you are a funny guy. I do appreciate supporting other YouTubers as well, especially YouTubers who've been going about a similar length of time as me. It's kind of interesting to see how they do it and how I do it. And I'm happy to support people in the same space because we all occupy the same space. We may have different points of view on something and a different way of looking at it, but if we're covering sport, it's kind of interesting to see how we can all, as we're doing sports-based coverage, how we can all pretty much try and help each other out, give each other advice, and all sorts of bits and pieces. Hello, Sani Khan. Yes, I have noticed my video on the England-Pakistan Test series has got a lot of interest from the subcontinent. I have a lot of friends who are British Pakistani origin and British Indian origin, so it's interesting. I've obviously got a lot of subscribers from India. What's happened to England is a long-standing problem. It goes back to 2005 when they sold the TV rights to Sky. So for those who don't live in the UK, we have obviously the same thing, subscription sports that you would get in North America or India or Pakistan or wherever it may be, where you have to pay to watch, which I think is actually wrong because it puts those from poorer backgrounds at a disadvantage, especially when they are fans of a sport, and it puts people off because they see it's more expensive, it's too corporate, and it's not always for everyone's liking. Cricket was at its most popular 13 years ago. Then the governing body went, we're going to sell all the TV rights, all of them, to Rupert Murdoch. And then the ECB come out, I think a couple of weeks ago, the chairman comes out and says young people aren't interested in the sport. And I look on the BBC Sport website and then some other sports websites, not Sky Sports because they have the rights, so we're not going to go for a biased opinion. And the responses from the public were, well, you took the free cricket away from us, you stopped funding it in state schools, etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of criticism towards the governing body, which you get in every sport at some point. No sport is 100% perfect, but that's the start of England's problems. But no, I think the selectors need to be looked at. I think captaincy is an issue. Ben Stokes shouldn't be playing. Ben Stokes shouldn't be playing because he's still got his court case to come. He really shouldn't be playing. That's my personal view. But we'll take it from there. I think people subscribe to me because most people are all neutral and safe, and it's safer to only say nice things. I know I try and be neutral on my channel, but I do occasionally rip into an athlete or a team or a league if I think they're being an absolute wally. I will say this. I try and stay neutral in some of my opinions on a sporting story. So, I watched the Champions League final last night. Now, obviously, in America, the MLS isn't as popular as the NHL, NFL. So, soccer for you guys or football for us in Europe. But I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm not a Real Madrid fan. So, if you saw that video, my response to it, or some of the videos I've done today, you will see that I'm saying, is this? I'm asking a question to you guys because you guys, the viewers, make the channel what it is. Because I like your feedback, what you guys give me in response to what I talk about. But the goalkeeper for Liverpool has received a lot of death threats. So when you say you do trash talk, yeah, it's kind of funny when it's a bit of sports banter. What's happened in the last 24 hours? This poor guy, he was clearly upset because he made two mistakes and it did sort of cost his team the game. But they're now threatening to kill him and his family. And this is a minority of the fan base, but it does sadden me when we have been here before and players have been murdered before and players' families have been kidnapped before, and it is what it is. What England are going to do against India when they lose to Pakistan, I don't. They need to seriously. I think the selectors and the coaching need to be seriously looked at the end of the year. There's too late to do anything now. They need to get together as a group and go, what's going wrong? I think they need to give the young guys, if they're going to select them, have faith with them. The selectors keep throwing some of these young players under the bus. They keep going, I've had a couple of bad games, we're going to drop him and put him in the wilderness for 5-10 years. No. Or they keep changing the lineup and dropping players in and out. That's not how you fix the problem. You go with players who are in form and you do like for like changes. So if a player is injured or struggling a little bit and needs a break, you put a similar player who does a similar role in. You should have at least 2 or 3 people competing for each position in an international lineup. So Joe Root's place should not be secure, even though he's the Test captain. There should be another number 3 batsman in first class county who's in form that they should look at and say your place ain't safe, and then he might play a bit better. But that's something else that that's my opinion. You should always have competition for places, but don't throw the young players under the bus. I think the experienced players are the ones that need to literally look at themselves and go, we're not playing good enough. And a lot of the experienced players are letting the inexperienced players down by their crap performances. Plain and simple. I think at the moment, India are going to slaughter England. I think Pakistan at Edgbaston, with the big English Anglo-Pakistani community, with the second and third generation Pakistani community here in England, there's going to be a lot of Pakistani support at Edgbaston because it's in Birmingham, and England could be basically feel like they're playing away because the amount of Pakistani fans that will be at Edgbaston for the second test. I think they're going to be in a right mess headspace. I don't think coaching is working. I don't think having Alistair Cook in the side as the ex-captain with Joe Root, the current captain, is working. That's completely not happening. And some people are saying, well, Cook should be captain again. He's even stated he doesn't want to be captain again. So I don't understand what Cook's role in the team is. He's been poor in the field in this first test. With the bat, first innings he was okay. Second innings he was crap. So he's got his consistency has gone out the window the last couple of years. I don't know what else to say. There's a lot more issues to the England side than just the last 2 years where they can't win away, and they've now not won a test match in 8 test matches. Plus, I think it could be 9. I'm not 100% certain. Yes, I agree with consistency. And also, if you're going to bring young players in, you've got to give them time to learn, develop, and play. Otherwise, they're not going to improve. Yeah, I do believe England lost the test after midway through the first innings. Also, their bowling wasn't good enough because Pakistan's batting lineup is not as good as Pakistan's bowling lineup. Pakistan's strength is the bowling. So, okay, we've been bowled out for 180 odd, but their batting lineup is actually technically, if you look at form, weaker. If you look at the runs scored and the amount of 50s, 100s, 30s for knocks, tail end, their batting lineup is weaker. Couldn't take advantage of that. Out-batted, outfielded, out-bowled. It is embarrassing. I understand that the world ranking system, people say Pakistan are 7th, England are 4th, yada, 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 things like that. The ranking system in any international pro sport is flawed, and so is the UEFA coefficient for European club football. It's all completely flawed. But I have to say this: England are just a mess at the moment. I don't just focus on cricket because I know there's a lot of other questions on a lot of other sports to be asked. But it's a good way to start. It's something that happened before lunch today. Before they even got to the lunch break, Pakistan had won. That is how embarrassing it is. Couldn't even get them until 5th day, or couldn't even get Pakistan to at least have to do it until later in the second or third session. So it is kind of embarrassing. Edgbaston is going to feel like an away test match for England because of the amount of British Pakistani community, the amount, the size of the community. Sorry, in Birmingham, in England, there's a big Pakistani community in the West Midlands. I've lived there, I've worked there in the West Midlands. Very passionate about their cricket. They're going to make it feel like a home Pakistani test match. England really have to get their heads straight. I think the leadership group of the team is not the right leadership group. I don't think Joe Root is the right guy to be captain. Cook, I don't know what his role in the side is anymore. Is he vice captain? Is he captain? Or is that Ben Stokes? Because Ben Stokes, for me, shouldn't be playing with his assault trial coming up. All the bits up in the air. Well, I do know that. I forget. Was it Azami broke his arm when Ben Stokes bowled a bouncer? Fractured his forearm. It's a shame because I don't know much about this Pakistan side. I haven't. They're not as the sides of, Wazim Akram and Eunice and all that. Yeah, Wakar Eunice years ago. They're not up on the same level. And that's no disrespect to Pakistan. They also had a golden generation 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're trying to rebuild. And so they're not the Pakistan sides of when I was a kid. I don't think it will benefit England because he didn't have to bat in the second innings. Without him on the third day, it didn't help at all. Um, I don't know is the answer. The way England played, it wouldn't matter if one of your key batsmen who is injured is out because they didn't need him really after he was injured. They still managed to get a good total. They didn't need him in the field. Um, the substitute fielder called Ben Stokes. So honestly, I think if you have got a 12 man who can slot in and do a job, I don't see a problem. But let's go back to Adam. Yeah, well, this is the thing. I don't know what it is when high paid sportsmen commit or are alleged to have committed offences like the rest of us. Uh, I think the whole Adam Johnson thing was completely mishandled by Sunderland, and I think that's still haunting the club now. I think it really is still haunting the club now. It's like I'm trying to think of some other instances where sportsmen have had, been charged with like drink drivers. I forget his name. He played for West Brom. He was done for drink driving. He killed someone. Was drunk at the wheel. Spent a few years in prison. Is it King? He played for Watford. Um, yeah, Lee Hughes. You had Marvin. Is it Marvin King? Played for Watford and Jamaica. He went to prison for a few allegations, which would Marvin King. He's had a history. Darren Ferguson, was it Darren Ferguson who headbutted someone and went to prison for assault for 9 months? There's been a few of them. It's not just football. There's rugby players as well, both league and union, who've had legal troubles. It doesn't matter what the offence is. The fact that Adam Johnson's offence was quite serious is part of the problem, but it doesn't matter what the offence is. I mean, you've got to look at in the rugby with Paddy Jackson, and the aftermath of he was found innocent and now he can't get a job. So I think the social media side of things has gone mad. So when Marvin King and Lee Hughes did what they did, Twitter, when Lee Hughes went to prison for drink driving, Twitter wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a thing. There was less discussion about it because there was less of a platform to discuss it. But when you look at Jeffrey Boycott, cricketer, beat his wife up, domestic violence, beat his wife up, and the sport accepts him back with open arms. This is a problem that sport needs to tackle. Rugby league has an issue with domestic violence and drugs, and I was going to do a video today about recreational drugs in sport and their use and the rise of their use, or the perceived rise of their use. I don't know what it is. I think football's got a big image problem where the players are paid really high salaries on average, even though the NBA players are actually paid more. But for a worldwide sport, the NBA is the highest paid league in the world. But for a sport worldwide, football average wages are the highest. There is Robinho. There's another one. There's a lot going on with the perception that a lot of these players are given a lot of money when they're very, very young, 18, 19, 20. They're on big money contracts when they're still a teenager. Now, look, I mean, the most I've earned a month is like £2,000 a month wage, which is a good wage to have. They earn that sometimes £2,000 a week on their entry level contracts, sometimes £2,000 a day. Well, they're on £6,000 a week, £10,000 a week, and then it gets up to 60, 70, 80,000, I think Adam Johnson never plays ever again. He's now on that register, which is very hard to get off because you stay on it for life, depending on your offence, or 5 years or whatever. Adam Johnson doesn't play ever again. But then you got the Ched Evans one where he was found guilty the first time round and then not guilty the second time round at retrial. I think the issue is a lot of these players in the pro leagues of football, rugby, ice, they get paid a lot of money when they're very, very young if they're like exceptional talent. And even when they're not, with the way the sports wages are going in some sports where they're overinflated, a lot of young talented sportsmen are getting paid too much too soon, and then they get into, let's say, the bit of a playboy lifestyle, and we could say George Best, there's a playboy lifestyle, and that's from a different era, but that's sort of what I'm getting at. He was very young when he got to the big time, very young, very talented, star player, key player for the team he was playing for, and for the time, a lot of money. In real terms now, that's like League Two wages, but at the time, that was a lot of money in the 60s and 70s, and George Best was a playboy. Um, and obviously he died reasonably young in his 50s. Paul Gascoigne, not looked after, given a lot of money, not looked after. He was paid a lot of money. Star player, went and played in Lazio for a while, and Rangers. He went and played outside England, and his life's gone off the rails. There are some sport might have watched the cricket highlights and forgot. Naughty me, but no. But no, you make a very valid point. You ask a very valid question. And there's a lot to discuss on that, and we can discuss individual cases or the generalisation of the fact that they are paid too much too young, and they do end up doing really, really silly things. You just get the chat sorted because I think it's frozen, which is bloody useful. But no, very, very interesting points, Mike. I mean, I know you regularly comment, and I occasionally get on your live streams and ask questions as well. And it's good to see some new faces in the live stream as well, and some new points of view and some new questions. I mean, I know I haven't done a live stream until last night for a while, and I do 2 in 2 days, and I'm doing them at earlier times than I normally would, and I'm happy to do so. But no, you should know about Pakistani players, these young players. No, but they this from what I've seen, from what I've seen so far of the limited highlights, because Sky Sports have all the rights, and I don't know how Sky Sports. The Pakistani team do look young and exciting, but they are inexperienced, so it'd be interesting to see at Edgbaston if they can deal with the expectation now that they've beaten, Ireland. Okay, it was Ireland's first Test match, so Ireland are going to be up for it. They've beaten Ireland, and that's a new team they've got to play. They've overcome that little challenge. And there were some experienced first-class cricketers in that Ireland side. They've now beaten England at Lords. Now they're going to Edgbaston, where there's a lot of Pakistani fans going to be there. That's a lot of expectation. If they can cope with that pressure, then yes, this Pakistani side has a long future of positivity and growth ahead of it. So that'll be interesting to see how they do in the second test. Yes, the French Open did start today. Joanna Konta is out. Surprise, Venus Williams is out the women's draw. I think Rafa Nadal, it's hard to see past him. He's so dominant on clay. But his fitness will be questioned because he's had a few injuries of late. For the last few years, he has had a lot of injuries, but he's so dominant on clay. I can't see past Rafa Nadal at this point. Stan Wawrinka possibly out of push, maybe Del Potro, but I'm going for Rafa Nadal for the men's draw. For the women's draw, Serena isn't going to be back until Wimbledon. Sister Venus is out. That the women's draw is very open. The men's draw it's Nadal's favourite. I will watch a little bit every now and then, but I will be working most of next week. I'll have tomorrow off, but I'll be working most of next week, so it'll be interesting to catch some of the evening sessions of play, maybe the last hour or so per day in the evening, because they are going to about 10:30 in French time, 9:30 our time. So I'll be able to catch an odd hour here or there of the odd match. But yes, that's an interesting thing. Is the women's side of tennis is all over the place. You got a champion in one event, and in the next event she's doesn't qualify. Let's say on the tour or something like that. It's the men's side is starting to get more competitive as well and have more depth. The women's side has less depth, and that's a criticism. That I have. Who would I replace Cook with in the team? And if you could, right, that's interesting. Who would I replace Cook with? The thing is, it's not off topic. We've discussed a fair bit about the cricket already. Who would I replace Cook with? I mean, I'm not a selector. I am a genuine fan of sport. But I've noticed Cook his form has struggled even when he hasn't been captain. He stopped being captain, I think, roughly about 2 years ago. And he says he doesn't want to go back to captaincy. His form bounced back a little bit, but he's now very inconsistent. He's good one day or in one session, and he's bad in the next. He's good in one innings, and he's bad in the next. I'm not sure if having Cook and Root in the team works. I don't know who I'd replace Cook with because they've tried keeping Cook in and replacing his starting opening batsman partner, and that is not working. Maybe Cook could be the problem. Take him out, put Stoneman back in. I don't know. People are saying Cook should be captain again and let Root focus on his batting, but Cook stated he doesn't want to be captain again. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe put Moeen Ali back in the side for his batting and leave Best to do the spin bowling for now, and put Moeen Ali at 3. And then put Stoneman in at 2 as an opener and drop Cook completely or drop Root. But you can't drop your captain, you can't drop your ex-captain because that's showing you lack of faith. I don't know. I don't really know. But I think Cook or Root, one of those two has to go. I think Root's the future, but he's not the captain. Cook's the ex-captain, he's in the side. Ben Stokes is the vice-captain, but could go to prison in about 4 months' time. I really, really don't know. The issue is, it's not off topic because it's a sports channel, and this is you can put your questions in, and we can talk about it. I wouldn't have any of the Pakistani team, not because I don't think the Pakistan team is good. I don't know enough about the Pakistani players to have an opinion on them. That's not me saying they're not good because they've clearly shown against a pumped up Ireland team who played very well and challenged them, and it was a 5-day test match in Ireland, that they're going to playing a team they haven't played before, to a ground they haven't played at before, against a very motivated opponent who have some very experienced players at first class level, and they won that. They've now come to Lords, one of the hardest test grounds to win at, and they've won there in 4 days, or technically 3 days and a session. But I don't know enough about the Pakistani players to put any of them in my team. But I'm not sure if I'll keep Cook or Root in the team, or Ben Stokes. I think Ben Stokes is upcoming, and this goes back to Mike and his previous linked questions into when players are on bail and they're allowed to play in other sports. I think since Ben Stokes committed the offence or the alleged offence that he's been charged with, England hasn't been the same. Since Ben Stokes got arrested last autumn, I think it was September, in the one-day series against the West Indies, England have not been the same. That is clearly distracting the playing group. That is clearly a dark cloud hanging over and a weight on that dressing room. He is the vice captain. He may go to prison. He could go to prison. I'm not joking on that. There could be a prison sentence. I don't think he should. I think the Ashes tour has affected this group of players as well. I think the selectors are not helping by throwing these young, talented guys who can play first-class cricket under the bus, and then trying to get Butler and Best to bat you out of a hole is not right. The senior players have completely let down the younger players by making the younger players try and dig them out of the hole. How can everything have such? I don't think that's necessarily a problem. The selector has played Test cricket. But I think Andrew Strauss has not worked as an administrator of the sport. The ECB is undermining the sport, this stupid 100 ball format. And of course, the centralised contract players, they've all obviously come out and said, we're supporting this, but really they don't want to. They're just being corporate about it, which I think is wrong. Taking the TV rights away from free to air to solely on subscription TV was wrong. I wouldn't say because some of the greatest coaches and greatest selectors and managers in sport are not necessarily the star players. They might have had a journeyman career. They sometimes turn out to be the best selectors, the best players, the best scouts, the best coaches, that kind of thing, best managers. But Andrew Strauss as an administrator in the ECB has been a disaster from day one. And sadly, he's had to go on leave because his wife is battling cancer, but I don't think he should come back. I think he should actually get fired. I know it's harsh because his wife is seriously ill, but he shouldn't be in the job he's in. He's not capable of doing it. And he's proven himself daily that he's not good enough. As a player, brilliant. As an administrator of the sport, absolutely hopeless. Um, hang on, same team. Well, here's the thing: England had a very good group of players from 2002 to 2013. That was a golden generation. For the first time in like 20 years, we had a good core of players. Some of them, Jimmy Anderson, he's still a good player. He still wants to play Test matches. He's still putting his hand up and saying, "Look, I'm still willing to play." Thing is, they've overused him. When he's bowling, he's had a lot of miles on the clock. He's tired. He's in his late 30s now. I was there for his first Test wicket at Lords when he was like 18, 19. In 2003, I watched his first ever Test wicket. I was sat underneath the pavilion. I was sat underneath the media end opposite the pavilion at Lords at the Edridge stand. I've been watching Jimmy Anderson's career since he was 18, 19 years old. He's now in his mid 30s. I think they haven't found an adequate replacement for him. Stuart Broad's not getting any younger either. And that is an issue when your bowling attack is quite senior in the sense that one more injury, they could be done. I mean, Stuart Broad's got a few extra miles left in the clock. He's just hit 30, but his batting form's deserted him, and he's useful to have in the tail. But he's got a pair of ducks for the first time in his career. He has got a Test century to his name. He can bat, but again, the batting coaches aren't working on that strength in his game, where he can actually give a half century, 30 runs here. They're not. They've just said you're bowling all the time. They knacker him out. So when he does come into bat, he's no good. I did say bring Moeen Ali back in. If you're not going to use him as a bowler because his bowling form's gone a bit wobbly lately, use him as a batsman. Keep Bess in the side because Bess has proved he can bat as well. That means you've got 3 all-rounders in the side with Stokes, who can all chip in, and you've got yourself 2 extra bowling options. But Ben Stokes, I think, needs to go until his court case. I know he might get a small custodial sentence, but that's about 6 months. All sorts. T20, World of West Indies and Lords. That's just a cash grab. I have no interest in that. Absolutely none. It's just a pure cash grab. So that's my view on that. And I like T20 cricket, but when it's a cash grab like that, the tickets are going to be extortionately expensive, and most average fans probably won't get to see it on TV because it's on pay-per-view TV. So I'm not interested. I think ICC, ECB, and the various other cricketing governing bodies, they're after the corporate money, and they're actually losing sight of grassroots, getting fans in, getting kids involved. That's where I think it's going. They're chasing the money, not development. No, I don't think Karius has had a lot of mistakes in him this season. The first one, that's how Klopp wants his team to play. A lot of coaches want the keepers to be quick out the back with the ball. Benzema, I've seen it happen before with goalies who have not paid attention to the forward around them loitering in the box. Because they've been instructed by the coach to get the ball out quick, start play again quick, and counter attack. That's Liverpool's strength. The second mistake, I've done that as a goalkeeper. I've misread a flight of a ball. I used to play school youth level, age level, and goal. I've done it before. When you move slightly to one side or the other, you think the ball's going to swerve or dip, and it's just a dead weight, dead straight. You could see straight away he was upset with that one, and he was furious with the first one. I think he was more angry at himself. The second mistake, he was exceptionally upset. But Real Madrid were the better side anyway. Had it gone to extra time, I said Liverpool had to win in normal time. Real Madrid would have Real Madrid would have beat them in extra time because their previous experience against Atletico and Bayern and all the other teams in that Champions League final, the finals they've won, the 2 against Atletico Madrid have gone to extra time, penalties in one, extra time in the other, and they proved 2014 and 2016 they can do it. I think if Liverpool were to win that game, they had to win in the 90 minutes. We have talked about match fixing though or spot fixing on this channel. Those were goalkeeping errors because you could see at the end of the game he was clearly distraught. A player's reaction can sort of give it away. His reaction was, "Oh Christ, I've really had a bad game," and it happens to every player, even Messi and Ronaldo. Ronaldo didn't have a great game. Players do have bad games. It's the reaction afterwards by some of the fans, which we will talk about the death threats against him. That's what I did. Oh no, I've seen higher paid goalies than Karius have complete and utter meltdowns. I really have. I've seen international goalies have meltdowns. It does happen. Fabian Barthez, one of the greatest goalkeepers ever. Tafarel for Brazil as well. They both had howlers like that. Jerzy Udek for Liverpool had howlers like that. Almunia. Karius is a young goalie. Klopp, I think, will keep faith in him, but they have to look at the fact that Mignolet and Bogdan, all three of the goalkeepers in their squad, have had a fair few blunders in the last couple of seasons. That's got to be down to the goalkeeping coach as well. It's not just down on the player. You've got the goalkeeping coach as well, who's saying, right, okay, don't worry about the mistake, let's move on. Don't worry about the mistake, let's move on. I don't think they are confident in that goalkeeping coach they have at Liverpool. That could be where the problem lies. I have seen high pay. I mean, I've seen even Buffon get it wrong. I've seen Toldo, great Italian goalkeeper, get it wrong. I've seen De Sanctis, another. I mean, the Italians make some great goalkeepers, and all the goalkeepers I'm listing off have all had howlers in their time. I've seen, Fabio Barthez made a lot of mistakes. He was an eccentric liability. Jens Lehmann's made a few. Manuel Neuer even has them. Manuel Neuer, he's a sweeper keeper. He regularly has a howler. But because he can pull off 8, 9, 10 good saves a game, he makes one mistake, he lets in one goal. When other goalies will let in 3 or 4, gets away with it. But no, Rob Green, he wasn't a world-class goalie, but he had a howler in him. Federici in that semi-final for Reading against Arsenal, where that goal slipped in the FA Cup, and he was clearly distraught. They do. I'm not saying match fixing doesn't take place, but the response from some of the fans, because he's come out and apologised, saying, it's on me. I had a bad game. I apologise. The fact that he's now had death threats against him and his wife and kids is sick. That's what I don't like. But no, the Rob Green one. Rob Green was always a hopeless goalkeeper. Scott Carson, he had that game against the Czechs. I know the Croatians and Slaven Bilic with McLaren, the volley with the brolly. I remember that one, 2007. Peter Bonetti, if you want to go back to the 70s and the real history of football, the World Cup 97 quarter-final, Peter Bonetti, we're 2-0 up and we lose 3-2 in extra time. Peter Bonetti played really well for 60 minutes and then it all went horribly wrong and he never played for England ever again. One of the best goalkeepers this country has ever produced, and that was his last ever appearance, and he had a terrible game. It does happen. I think it's more to do with the mental thing, and I think that's the goalkeeping coach. That's on the goalkeeping coach. And to go to the England need 1 or 2 more wicket takers in the side. Maybe we need to, freshen things up a little bit. There are some good young. I mean, Roland Jones is injured at the moment, but he was a good find last year. He's obviously been injured, but Roland Jones, he was a good find. He's a good swing bowler. The conditions where they're hot, they're humid, would really, really, really suit his bowling. They need to get him fit again. But no, Anderson will put a shift in, but his age is now counting against him, and he needs more support. And Stuart Broad is trying his best as well. Those two guys need support. Ben Stokes is not supporting them well enough. Mark Wood, still learning the ropes at test level, but is a good bowler. But if Ben Stokes, the all-rounder, can't step up, he needs to be dropped. They've given Ben Stokes faith. They've given Ben Stokes time. He can't behave off the pitch, and on the pitch he's not doing enough. Why is Ben Stokes in the side? I forget he's part of the leadership group, even though he's a thug. But that's my personal view on Ben Stokes. Now the Rob Green mistake was pretty bad because he really did drop that in the net. And that was in an international. That's even a step above Champions League. That's the highest level of football, and it wasn't even against a good side. It was against, I think it was Algeria, and he made a right, or US. No, it was the US, and he made a right picture. I can't stand the Sky commentators. If Ben Stokes is bowling as best as he could, where's the 5-wicket haul in? I mean, because he has that in him. He does that. Where if he's bowling at his best, where's the 5-wicket haul? Where's dismantling the Pakistani weak batting lineup? Because that Pakistani batting lineup, it's young, it's inexperienced. One of their openers or one of their top orders only had 4 Test matches. If Ben Stokes is playing that well, why is he not skipping these guys out? And why is Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad doing the majority of the bowling? Why are your 2 senior bowlers, one of whom is over 35? He's like a 3rd greatest wicket taker of all time. Why are they doing all the bowling then? If Ben Stokes is bowling at his best, if Ben Stokes is bowling at his best, wickets would be tumbling at key times, and they haven't. I'm not gonna lie. Roland Jones needs to get fit. He's a very good find. Mark Wood is still learning international test level cricket. Um, and they're relying and Bess, they threw him in to try and dig him out of a hole, and he's 20 years old. That to me is poor leadership group, because if Ben Stokes is the vice captain, he should say to Root, "Hey, give us a go. Right, let's try and get us out of this hole," because he's a leader and he really doesn't. Oh no, Sky is the most biased commentary I've ever come across. I cannot stand Sky. But the ECB has a nice cosy contract with them that's worth hundreds of millions of pounds that grassroots cricket doesn't see, because the ECB are lining their pockets. I think the Sky deal is wrong. I think there should be more free to air, and thankfully the BBC is getting some cricket back next year. But it's too little, too late. That's part of the problem. Why England have problems now is not enough young players are getting to the elite level, because young kids have been put off. They're told that cricket's boring when it's not. Um, and 18 million households do not have pay per view or subscription sports services. So they either have a basic Sky package or a basic Virgin TV package with no sports channels, because they cannot afford it. Because in the last 10 years, real wages have shrunk and inflation's gone up. People lost their jobs. And the ECB, the FA, the RFU are selling out to corporate money and denying a lot of young kids and adults as well, fans, the chance to watch affordably. That's my belief on that. But no, the Sky quality of commentator is still better than BT Sport's, even worse. BT Sport commentary at the Champions League finals. I cannot. Glenn Hoddle commentating Champions League final last night. Oof, it was terrible. What else? They really don't. They throw them in. They give more chance to the bowlers. So the tail, they're giving more chance to the young players, or the players that have proven themselves at county cricket level. It's the upper order where they're throwing these young kids in their early 20s and expecting them to be brilliant straight away. They have a good test match. David Milan, for example, he was one of the few good players in the Ashes series for England. And then they have a couple of iffy innings and they get thrown under the bus, and they put like Stoneman. Stoneman's technique is iffy. That comes down to the batting coach. It's a young player. The experienced player's got to help him out with technique, and the batting coach needs to step up and go, right, you know, here's some good things you're doing. Here's some bad things you're doing. Let's work on the bad things to make them good things as well. And they're not doing that. So the coaching staff in England's flawed. The selection, they need to go. Andrew Strauss needs to go. The chairman of the ECB, what's his Graves, he needs to sod off. And they need to really reevaluate their deal with Sky, because I think they're letting down the cricket fan. And a lot of cricket fans on the BBC Sport website, when they were mentioning the ECB's comments on youth participation, a lot of young people younger than me were like, "I watch cricket, but you've priced us out. You're scum. You've sold out." So even young people were having a go at the ECB. I'm not sure about the second test. If the Pakistanis feed off the British Pakistani community in the crowd, there's a big Pakistani community over here in the UK. They're going to treat it like a home test, and they're going to feed off that. England, I think, have to bowl first, give themselves a target to aim for, because the Pakistani batting is not as good as England's. But England have shown in the first test that they haven't. They're relying on their young and experienced players to dig them out of a hole, which is not right. So that leadership group um, need to really step up and pull their finger out. Right, let's have a look. That three-way commentary was terrible. I mean, I don't mind McManaman. I've met Steve McManaman. He's a very nice guy. He's exceptionally intelligent about the game. He's just got that unfortunate thing called a Scouse accent, but he's very, very intelligent about the game. Glenn Hoddle is just, I want to make my ears bleed, because he's so outdated. He failed as England manager. He failed at Wolves. He failed at Tottenham. As a player, brilliant. As a manager, useless. Um, I watched the F1 on Channel 4, and it was crap. It was absolute crap. I did a video on Ricardo winning. The tyres don't last long enough. The hybrid systems are crap. They've got too much. The V8, the DRS needs to go. Too much talking on the team with the team orders. So um, Esteban Ocon, who's a junior driver for Mercedes, suspiciously gets out the way of another driver when because he's on the youth program. Come on, no, there's a lot wrong with F1. I I've gone off F1. Right, let's have a look. And yeah, the commentary on both Channel 4 and Sky One, they were just praising everything. No, really, come on. You got to have a little bit of more criticism. Right, we've got some trolls in here, and I'm not going to read out the silly names because I keep this as clean as possible. Yeah, Mike, just report them, mate, and I'll sort them out in a minute. I'm trying to sort out this chat. It's a bit annoying. Let's go. Let's see what we're at. Yeah. Right. Test match prediction. I think it will probably go to the fifth day, and I'm probably gonna say draw. I think it will be a draw. I honestly don't see England as being confident enough to get the win. And but I honestly don't think the confidence is there in the England side at the moment. I think Pakistan are going to be riding. They've won 2 tests in a row against 2 different sides. They've had a successful Northern Hemisphere tour so far, so they're full of confidence, and that's good for their young players because their young players are now confident and they're believing in their abilities, and they're on a high at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'm going. I'm going for a draw, not because I'm hoping or expecting. I think that's the most likely result. I don't even do predictions. Predictions are very hard in sport because looking at the weather we've had in England the last couple of days, a lot of thunderstorms. Last night was a heavy thunderstorm that lasted about 4 hours. We expect some more tonight. Had the game gone on till tomorrow, there's a lot of thunderstorms around. That's something that is floating around. Is the weather, the humidity, the thunderstorms. There are some more predicted for next week as well. That could have an effect on how the ball swings, the amount of game, test time you can get, the amount of how long delaying of game and things like that, bad light. So I'm going for a draw because the weather is going to have an effect. I'm surprised it didn't have more effect in this test match with rain delays and bad light delays, but they've got the floodlights now, so that's an interesting one. But there is some interesting ones. I mean, would I? Let's have a look. Let's just read some more. My favourite team is depending on what sport, because I do support a few sports and I do support a few teams. That's an interesting one. I've done videos on all my favourite teams on the channel, but I don't do that many on them because I cover every sport and I want to, I think give each sport an equal share of airtime. And I don't seem too biased. I do have a lot of favourite teams, mind, but it is what it is. But I'm a Blackburn fan in football. I like obviously the Winnipeg Jets in the NHL. I like the Canberra Raiders in the NRL, and I also follow the Bracknell Bees in the British Ice Hockey League system. And the Exeter Chiefs in the rugby union, they lost yesterday, which is a bit annoying. But Saracens have a good side, so I'm not angry. They're still one of the 2 best teams in the country. They're on the regular season in the rugby union, so that's all good. Right, I think Pakistan play the Nations Super. Well, if you've got to look at it, the weather is going to have an effect. There's some thunderstorms brewing literally now. There's some very big, heavy clouds brewing where I live just west of London in England. there's going to be some thunderstorms tonight. So it's still 26 to, I think it's the temperature. It's still 28 degrees here, 26 degrees. It's about 70% humidity. It's going to get hotter next week. I think that is going to have an effect. The dew in the outfield, the humidity, and if there are any rain delays and light delays, that could put Pakistan off their stride because they're that inexperienced. So that's the only thing I can see derailing Pakistan is the weather. And if there are any weather delays or light delays, that could put them off a little bit off their stride because they have shown against Ireland the weather wasn't the greatest. There was a bit of wind there. They showed a ground they'd never played that before against a team that were very pumped up and motivated and had the experience in the team from first class cricket. That really gave them a challenge, and they had to. They stood up to that challenge and they said, "Okay, right, we've beaten a test side. Let's play another test side, and we're away from home." And they stepped up even more. They took that extra step up. But they've still got a ways to go to be a world class team. But they have had a very good they have a very good future ahead of them. Right. Yeah, I remember the Channel 4. I even remember BBC in the early 90s. I'm that old. Oh, yeah. I may look young because I've shaved my beard off, but I remember the BBC coverage till about, I think, 94, 95, and then it went to Channel 4. What the ECB did in 2005, they realised the game was getting really, really popular, and they thought we're all going to like to pay to watch on TV exorbitant amounts of money. And they took advantage of the popularity of the sport and the fan base. And now I think some members of the ECB may slightly be regretting it, but the people in charge of the ECB, Graves and Strauss, are lining their pockets. They're making themselves very, very wealthy, and they're not putting the money back into grassroots. I've got mates who play cricket at amateur level, and yeah, their clubhouses are falling apart. We've got 4 cricket clubs in the local area around me that play in the local league against each other. Their clubhouses are in a terrible state. The pavilions are in a terrible state. The pitches aren't great. The side screens are damaged. And this is a wealthy area, and the grassroots game has been destroyed. Another local team in the next town down, they've sold off their cricket ground and merged with another local team to keep going, and they sold off to developers because they could not maintain their clubhouse and get enough people signing up to join the cricket club. Right. Okay, cool. Dan Matthews from Pooga Bark, hello. It's not above the average heat. I mean, we've had days like this before. I can see it getting even hotter this summer. But there's a lot of thunderstorms around, and it's just not doing anything. Hey, my name is Wish. Do you like Manchester football team? Well, there's a couple of teams in Manchester. You got Man United, Man City, Bury, Stockport County, and Bolton, and Wigan all playing Greater Manchester. It's very interesting. Greater Manchester's a hotbed of English football. So I don't really. I'm not a fan of any teams from Manchester though. I mean, I hate them. I'm just not a fan of them because my team from Blackburn, and that's a local rivalry. Willpower, Australian. Wow, that's good to see. I'll probably watch the highlights on YouTube later because IndyCar and NASCAR do live streams, then put the live streams up a day later. So I probably will watch that. The Penske Ford teams, so the NASCAR, they've got a good setup in motorsport. They're a big motorsport team in the US. They have a very, very solid foundation and development structure with some of their young drivers and some of their experienced drivers. That's going to put them in good stead because obviously NASCAR's proven they have taken IndyCar drivers and taken to NASCAR and vice versa. There's some very, very talented drivers in both formula, as we'll call it, or both series. So that's not bad. But it is what it is. Um, I do think if Gareth Bale and Ronaldo and Neymar all move, yes, because there are rumours saying that Gareth Bale may want to go back to the Premier League, or he may want to move on from Real Madrid because he's not getting the game time. If you look at his press conference or his interview after the game on the pitch side when he's like just about to get the trophy and he's giving it a beating sport, he basically is complaining, and he's looking at Zidane when he's saying this that he's not happy with the fact that he's not starting all the time. When he's on the bench, he's not getting enough time as a sub, um, and that he's been fit for long enough since his injury. He's been fitter than Real Madrid are claiming. Um, so that's interesting. There's been rumours this season of Ronaldo not being 100% happy there either. And there's also rumours they want to get Neymar from PSG, and that means they have to offload one of their players to get the money together to get Neymar to stay under financial fair play. So they have to. It could happen. Um, it could happen, but again, very few teams can afford Gareth Bale. It's either PSG or Man City, and I'm not sure how he would fit into Man City, considering Guardiola hasn't coached him because he coached at Barcelona, and Bale's been a Madrid player, so that could be an interesting dynamic. And PSG are looking for a new coach because Unai Emery's now gone to Arsenal, which to me says Neymar could be going out of PSG. Um, but no, if either Bale, Neymar, or Ronaldo move, that's going to destroy the transfer record, and it's just wrong. There shouldn't be any. Um, but the Manchester teams, especially City, how they've not been done for financial fair play regulation breaches. It just shows how toothless UEFA and the FA are when it comes to enforcing rules that are there to balance the playing field between the teams to make it more of an even competition. Um, yeah, and the problem is there's only like two or three teams that can afford to pay his wages. Because I'm not sure if Gareth Bale, nice enough chap that he is, will want to take a wage cut because he's so used to having high wages and probably not paying tax either. Because a lot of players who've been playing in Spain have fallen afoul of Spain's tax laws because they've been avoiding paying tax. So I'm not sure if he'd be willing to take that wage cut because he's now got used to having superstar wages. We'll have to see what what happens. It is only rumours. I think that's more of a dig at Zidane. But you can see Zidane's celebrations when he scores the overhead kick and then the third goal. Um, so we'll have to see. I don't think Zidane will want to move to PSG because I think he knows he hasn't won the league in La Liga yet with Real Madrid. I don't think. I think Barcelona and Atletico are a bit step ahead of him, and I think he wants to get that league title as well, and as well as the Copa del Rey, to add to his shiny trophy cabinet as a manager. That's something that I think he wants to do. But it's interesting some of the managerial movements that have been happening in the last little while. Oh no, I not. Okay. Uh, yeah, if Neymar goes to Madrid, Barca fans, we've seen with Figo before that didn't end well when Figo went between the two clubs. There was some rather nasty scenes where they throw pigs at him. I don't think the football fans would react well to that. I'm not sure if the Real Madrid fans would react well because he's an ex-Barca player. I don't know. It's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. We'll have to see what happens, like long term, with all these players. I think, yes, I do believe the transfer market. I do believe that the record transfer will get broken because I can't see Neymar wanting to stay at PSG. I see Neymar wanting to win the Champions League again. I can see Neymar wanting to play with a better caliber of player again. So I can see Neymar either going back to Barcelona or possibly going to Man City as well. But Real Madrid are linked to him. I don't know. If a billionaire from the Middle East wants to buy Blackburn, how good intentions are, I say you really want. Well, as long as they give whatever manager time and the funds necessary, I'd much rather see a British billionaire or millionaire buy my club, like in the past, that had good intentions. I'd rather see that, but I'd rather have an owner that will give the manager the time to develop the team, grow the team. We haven't had that with the Benkis for near on a decade. It's been a mess. So that that's an interesting one. I'm not sure about Fulham. I'm not sure about. I'm not sure about Fulham staying up. I'm not sure, but all the clubs that got promoted last season to this season have all stayed up in the leagues they got promoted to. But yeah, I'm not sure they'll get top 10. I think Fulham. Let me just sort out this moron. We've had a few tonight. Hard user from channel. There we go. We'll report you as well. Yes. Bang, go on. Right, let's get rid of him. Let's remove. What does this guy want? I mean, we've had a few tonight. Apparently, I look homeless as well, and apparently, he's a pro football player for Man City, which I find really funny. Why would a Man City player be on my report? Put in, yeah. No, I mean, Fulham. I think Wolves have a good chance of staying up. Fulham, because they've had to get through the playoffs. Normally, the team getting up through the playoffs normally is the one that get relegated. Huddersfield this season stayed up. That's how I've seen it over the last forever. The playoff team who win the playoff final are generally the team that go down if they are to get relegated out of the promoted sides. But let's turn the light on. Let's get a bit of light in here. It's a difficult one because of the way I think Cardiff might struggle as well. They've struggled in the past. I think Wolves are the best suited because they did show in the League Cup against Man City that they could, match them man for man. But it's a difficult one. It's like we'll see how Tranmere do because they got promoted from the National League through the playoffs. We'll see how Rotherham do in the Championship next season because they got promoted through the playoffs. We've got Exeter and Coventry tomorrow. Whoever wins that, we'll see how they do in League One, etc., etc. But normally, if a team out of the promoted teams, the team that normally goes down is the one that went off through playoffs. Do Cardiff still have the same owners as Malky McCart? I think they do, yes. But they still have the same ownership group. Also, if Salah would have played the whole match, we'll have to. That's hindsight. Lallana didn't help. I don't know what. I think Lallana's overrated. You could see the difference. They had to move Mane and Firmino around the front three. It's interesting. Salah, he has been their best player, but if you are relying solely on one player, that's a bad bit of management. You got to have a solid squad type. Kind of dynamic where you have several key players who drive you forward rather than the one. Firmino and Mane did play well. Lallana, when he came on, was ineffective completely. Completely ineffective. The Champions League final has been well discussed, obviously, on this live stream tonight, and the aftermath of it, because Zidane's the first manager to win 3 in a row. Gareth Bale may want to leave. Karius and the threats against him and his family, and him having a bad game. But everyone forgets Their goalkeeper wasn't great either. Under the high ball, under the cross, he was very flappy. And unfortunately, Liverpool, even without Salah, they could have still attacked more, especially down Real Madrid's left, because Marcelo defending, he doesn't know what that is, and he's going to be a left back, but he seems to end up at right wing half the time. And they didn't get Firmino or Mane running down that defensive channel to cross the ball in for the other forward to come in. I do think Cardiff will get relegated. Warnock is not the manager he was. I think Warnock is a good manager at lower levels because he can improve teams to get them up the league structure. That's a Premiership manager. He's out of his depth. And Cardiff have shown before every time they got the Premier League, they've generally fallen out again. It is. Yesterday was the no, Sergio Ramos is known for that. He's a petulant, nasty player. The referee also missed a direct elbow to Karius's head just before his first, mistake when he rolled the ball out. The basically the shocking rugby tackle / wrestling throw that should have been a yellow card because that is into the player. Pulling a player down, that's a yellow card. I've actually got an old football rule book from the 90s that's basic rules to teach kids how to play the game. It shows you some stats and facts. And it does say if you pull a player's shirt, that's a booking because it's cynical. When you're pulling a player by the arm and actually throwing him to the floor, that is in the street, that's classed as assault. He also got Mane booked by diving when Mane didn't even touch him. Ramos is known for doing this. At the end of the day, though, the referee didn't give it as a yellow card. And this is where, if we had VAR, would VAR have worked? If that's in the FA Cup final, that's VAR going, you're booked. That's something that will sit at the World Cup. Ramos will do that at the World Cup, and he will give penalties or free kicks away for his team against the opposition. But yes, no, some of the Real Madrid players are known for some of their nasty play. They're very similar to Atletico Madrid, but he did get away with an elbow to Karius's head. He basically got away with possibly fracturing or dislocating Salah's collarbone. And this is where the argument, the refs favour Barcelona and Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid in European finals, because these three teams, including and Sevilla, have won most of the European finals in the last 18. In the last 18 finals, they've won 13 of them between 4 Spanish clubs. There is a perception that referees do favour, be it deliberately or otherwise. That's not going to go away. But it's kind of damning when it's like, that is a foul. Other YouTubers have highlighted Ramos's elbow and Karius in the second half just before Karius gets the ball and does the rollout. And he got away with that one. He flies into him, he drops an elbow, and he gets away with one there. I don't know why. It's a perceived favouring. I'm not saying it is there. It's perceived by other fan bases because they've been so successful in Europe. Yeah, that is correct. It's a perceived favouritism. The Spanish clubs, this is why their national side suddenly got very, very good. For a long time, Spanish clubs did have this mental block that they would fall apart. Same with the Spanish national side, because you've got the Basques in there, you've got the Catalans, you've got the people from Navarre, Aragon, Andalusia, the Madrid area, and it's very regional in Spain. And until 2008, Spanish national sides fell apart in major tournaments, and then their club form, with Barcelona win the Champions League in 2006. From there onwards, out of nowhere, of course, Valencia won a few with Rafa Benitez, but suddenly out of nowhere, after a couple of decades where they had good sides in Europe, but they would fall apart at, under pressure, Barcelona win the 2006 Champions League final against Arsenal, which they were lucky to win. I felt that was a very, very tight game. And Jens Lehmann got sent off. Whether that was sending off or not is debatable. with how the rule variations and things like that. From 2006 till now, you can make your case. You can definitely make your case that, but it's because at the moment Spain has got a very good generation of players. They're near the end of that generation now, but they do have a very good generation of players. Plus, their biggest clubs have also some of the best foreign talent. Now, yeah, the Juventus game, you could debate that. You could debate do they breach financial fair play because they get government assistance at times? They've had that, and it's gone unnoticed. It's not been punished. It's gone unpunished. So there is that perceived there's that perceived favoritism. But again, European refereeing standards vary from country to country and league to league. And there is issues with match fixing in European football and football worldwide. So we go into the corruption scandals in Italy and Greece and Turkey and Spain and France and German football where there's match fixing allegations. We can discuss that. But it is what it is. I'm not. It's a difficult one. It's a very difficult one to discuss, and we will have to see what happens long term if non-Spanish clubs start to, because I did my history on Borussia Mönchengladbach, and I'm going to do one on other German clubs. In the 70s, German football dominated European club football. You had Hamburg, I think, won a European trophy. Mönchengladbach won 5. Bayern Munich won 3 in a row. In the Gold Cup Winners' Cup, and the European Championships Cup, whatever it was. So German football dominated the 70s. We're just having Spanish football dominate the last 12 years in European football. It will not always be the case. There will come a point where Real Madrid and Barcelona go back to what happened in the 90s and the noughties, where they were the nearly men and they would fall apart and they would crumble under pressure, and hence why they were called the Galacticos at Real Madrid. They had all these great star players, but they all hated each other and they could not perform on the day. What are my future hopes for the channel? Well, it is still a hobby, but with the World Cup few weeks away now, and there's going to be a lot of videos on the World Cup, and I know a lot of people are cricket fans who've been in this live stream tonight, or they like ice hockey. We've had a few of them. They're going to want those sports covered. The Stanley Cup is nearing its conclusion, so I'll do some videos on that. But I think if we got remonetized, yeah, that's something for the future. I'm not close enough to remonetization yet to really think too far ahead. I've got to keep a little bit on the ground, a little bit. It's a hobby, but I have been asked the question if I was to get a decent living out of this, what I do this full time. Of course I would. I'll obviously improve my equipment a little bit and get a whiteboard and have some few props lying around to aid the video. I might get a few mates to help me out with video editing and things like that, but I don't really want to do too much like that. I do all my research myself, and so I've got notepads all over the place. I communicate with other YouTubers. There's a few other YouTubers that I do have a good working relationship with, in the sense that I can ask them for advice and vice versa. But oh yeah, no, I'd have hundreds of notepads for the most if I did full time. What else we got? Rangers fan, hey, don't worry about it. I mean, I didn't do a live stream for 2 weeks. That's partly on me, but I did it on a whim yesterday. I literally just did it because I was bored, and I felt that if I was constantly doing all my club histories and player histories and bits and pieces, that I'll go mad researching everything. Because I was doing a lot of research yesterday, I thought I'll go mad. It's my first day off, or 3 days off. I'll go mad doing that from work. I thought, no, I've got to give that a break. It was so human, I couldn't relax. Because I've been busy at work all week, and I thought, I'll do a random live stream. It ended up lasting only 4 hours before I was bored, basically. But don't apologise if you're busy. I do try my best to do my live streams at times that can work for everyone around the world, because we've got viewers in Australia, we've got viewers in America, here, over across Europe, So I do try my best to get it at a time of day where as many people around the world can get involved with it, and that's great. I didn't hear about Celtic and their ticket issues. I don't know exactly what you get on that. If I did it this full time, yes, I would have hundreds of notepads for the notes. I mean, I've got about 10, or I've got 6 or 7 now. And I'm having to downsize at the moment with some of my stuff. I'm having to move a few things around a little bit. I could do a fan history, or no, a club history in Aberdeen. That will be one of the things that I do. But I'm going through just going through a couple of clubs, and on the club I support, and I'm going through some other clubs, and then I'll start focusing on maybe doing. It's because it's all about the research. Some clubs are a bit easier to research than others. Others have got a lot of trophies and a lot of history, and others have been around maybe less or have less trophy success. So it's just a bit easy to go. This is the most successful period. Um, But well, this thing with the away fans going to sell it going away. I don't understand that if they're cutting tickets. That makes no sense to me. Surely you want to encourage as many fans as possible to go to, especially the Old Firm derby, and as games as possible, because Scottish football, I think, needs the interest in the investment. Now, if that is a Rangers decision, that'll be interesting. If that is a Scottish FA decision, that is interesting, because you've got to have. I think the away allocation has to be similar for. Oh, right, yeah, it's to do with Steven Gerrard then. I think that would be a very unwise move, because let's say Steven Gerrard doesn't work out, okay, or they don't quite get as many season tickets up, they're going to regret that. Plus, they're going to lose out on revenue, because not everyone who gets a season ticket goes to every game, and there'll be a lot of empty seats if they reduce the away end capacity. That's a really silly move. Really silly. And if they are going to cut the away end capacity because of more season tickets, don't cut it by nearly 7,000 seats. That's one way to really make sure your away end is really empty and bad for TV. It makes it look bad, and Scottish football needs as much investment and interest as possible. Um, Netherlands, that's an interesting, very flat country, but apparently it's really warm on the continent as well. I mean, it's in the high 20s here. But it's that time of year people start going on summer holidays, so I can't blame you. But if Rangers are predicting they're going to sell more season tickets that way by reducing the away fans at games, if those season ticket holders don't turn up for, let's say, a game in particular, because it's against St Johnstone or Livingston, they don't turn up for that game, and it's a live TV game, a lot of empty seats, doesn't look good. Empty seats look really, really bad for TV. Well, I'm not. I'm not a big fan of certain fan bases. I'm not saying people on here are bad football fans or rugby fans or ice hockey fans, but there's a minority of each fan base that really does my nut. Um, and we've seen it today with Liverpool, with the death threats towards Loris Karius and his family. There are some Rangers fans, quite a few Rangers fans, who have shown themselves to be racist, homophobic, sectarian, to a nasty degree of sectarianism. If you look at the Rangers fan base, when you look at like when Steven Gerrard was announced, very few men of colour were in that stadium. So there were very few people from the Glasgow Asian community there. Some of the other clubs in Scotland have a lot more of the Asian community and the Mediterranean Italian community supporting their clubs. For some reason, I'm not saying it's all Rangers fans, but there is that nasty sectarian racist element, and it's come out a lot of times, and Celtic as well. They're right, Celtic as well. I said that sectarianism. They've been done as well for sectarian chanting in Europe, when they play in Holland, or when they're playing in Germany, where there's a large Protestant population. They've also got in trouble for racist and sectarian chanting as well. I think it's more of a Scottish football fan problem, and it's not all fans. It is a minority, but the Rangers fan base as a whole, I don't particularly like them. And I know a lot of Scottish football fans who live near me in England, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen. I'm not a big fan of Scottish football fans, and I think Rangers fans, for the most part, are a bit deluded into thinking that Gerrard is the Messiah. It's a good move, but at the same time, I don't think Gerrard is ready. It's a risk, but without risk, there's no reward, so we won't know. But I do think that the club have to be a bit more patient, and that includes the fans. But the fact they're cutting the away ends for tickets is wrong. Not by that much. The old firm is what sells tickets. If you reduce it to 800 in the away fan and then the season ticket holders don't turn up, Celtic are going to react in kind. And this is a negative move. And Motherwell, I mean, see, we've got another football fan complaining about another fan base. And we've seen it today, this morning, with Liverpool's fans and how they vilely, absolutely classlessly threatened Loris Karius and his family with death threats and rape threats and saying, I hope your family gets cancer and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, football, especially football, has this issue with a minority of fans who act really mindlessly like sheep, but they come out or do silly things. So I don't know, but it is what it is. I'm really melting right now. I'm going to see that. I'm going to check the temperature quickly because it's what 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. Oh yeah, no. I mean, I could talk to you about the NRL and the Sydney Roosters and the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the 70s and 80s. If you, oh fuck off, you mate trying to bug me. I've told him I'm not coming out, bugging me, trying to check something. But it is in the NRL. If you look at the rugby league, the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Sydney Roosters, if you were to cross the wrong side of a street, you get stabbed, and that's rugby league, and that's in Australia, and that was going on until recently. If you were to cross the wrong side of the street, you would be grabbed, dragged down an alleyway, and stabbed multiple times, and that's rugby league, and that's in Australia. So it's not just football where you have don't wear the jersey in that side of town. It's multiple sports. It's the same in North America with certain sports like ice hockey and American football. At times, there are certain fan bases that aren't particularly pleasant. It's not. It's a difficult one. I'm not saying all fans are bad. There is a minority at certain teams and in certain sports, but football gets the bad press. But other sports as well have that minority of fans that it's always a minority, Mike. It's always a minority. What the hell is my phone doing? Oh, it's deciding to uncharge and charge itself. Oh, what is my phone doing? Stupid bloody Samsung. I do enjoy like just sitting down and having that discussion with people who support multiple sports or different teams. I love having that discussion. A lot of my friends support Tottenham, and I've said to them, "You need to win a trophy," and I said, "You need to win the FA Cup this season," and they haven't won the FA Cup this season, but they're still above Arsenal in the league, and they feel kind of happy with that. Others say we'll be fine, we'll do better next season. And they've been saying that for the last 3 seasons. So there's an interesting debating point. I say, well, you need to win this trophy because this group of players, they may leave or want to leave because of the lack of success. St Johnstone I've got a few St Johnstone fans who follow the channel. They are an interesting bunch, but I've come across some really bad fan bases that it's a minority of fans, but it gives the whole club a bad name. And you can see it with Liverpool right now, with the minority of fans that were abusing Loris Karius and saying instead of "Oh, you had a crap game, you're not a good player," to "We're going to kill you." That's why certain fan bases are exceptionally disliked. It's because the antics of a minority. That's where the issue is, and sadly, a lot of these individual players who do suffer these threats against them and the crap they get, the nasty, the shitty chants, they suffer in silence. And we think, oh, they're really well paid. You know, they got to take some criticism. There's taking criticism, and then there's having death threats sent to you on a daily basis. And the media, nah, they've not talked about it. There was the Independent covered this. the Loris Carius newspaper. They were the ones who reported the story first, but Sky News, BBC, nah, not interested. They're not interested in the fact that people are sending death threats to a young man and his family and his kids who were toddlers. Then they don't care. I'm sorry, that's wrong. But again, it's only a minority of fans. That's why I like talking. I've got mates who are Arsenal fans, Tottenham, West Ham, Celtic, Aberdeen, Rangers. I'm a Blackburn fan. My granddad's a Burnley fan. I've got mates who are Liverpool fans, Everton. You name it. I've got mates who cover every fan base you can think of. I've got mates with Palace fans, Yeovil fans. Yeah, I know some Yeovil fans, including Miko. Oh yeah, no, it is. Gut wrenching if you lose the way Liverpool did, but the way some of them, and this is now a good 24 hours after the kickoff, and they're still sending him vile abuse, and it's now been highlighted because Merseyside police are now investigating, and it has now been brought to it's on Twitter, it's all over Twitter, and they're still doing it, and you would think now the police know you're doing it and they can track your IP address, stop, because we've seen that it takes one idiot to read something and to do an act upon it. And unfortunately, we've seen it before where a player has had a shocker of a moment, Andres Escobar, and he wound up dead 6 weeks later. And for those who don't know Andres Escobar, he was a Colombian international player. He was captain of the side. He played for his local club in Colombia at Medellin, at Nacional, in Colombia, and he was gunned down on his summer holiday in his local town when he was mingling with the locals, and they were having lots of sympathy for him. You are a local hero, and the Medellin cartel or the Sinaloa cartel gunned him down in broad daylight. Yeah, all because of an own goal. So yeah, I would take this seriously. We have precedent. We've had players' parents kidnapped in South America. We've had death threats sent to players in this country before. We've had players' cars arsoned. We've had players' houses burgled. We've had kidnapped attempts before on players and their families. Cruyff, famously in the 70s, just before the 78 World Cup. It has happened before. It will continue to happen. Yes, there is a summer break. Cricket and rugby league, yeah, they will be played. But yeah, it's more individual. But motor racing I will class as a team sport because you have teammates and then you have all that kind of stuff. But I get what you mean with motor racing. Then there are rivalries in motor racing, so let's not forget that. But it is interesting. We got with the French Open's now started tennis. The PGA tournament at Wentworth's finished, which is good for my route to work because I have to ride past a bloody golf course to get to work, or a back route to it, and the traffic's been terrible while it's been on. But it is good that other sports are going to be in the forefront, such as the cricket, the rugby league, the motor racing, the tennis, the World Cup. I know it's football still, but it's the World Cup. It's a different style of tournament. It's not the Champions League. It's not the regular league season. It's not the FA Cup. So there's a lot to talk about sports-wise over the next 3 months. A lot is going to happen. And we have to see what happens, especially the transfer market. That's where it gets really interesting, is the overinflated transfer market. I'm not sure how much longer the football bubble, money-wise, can last. It really will burst at some point. I'm just waiting. It's been 20 years. I'm getting really interested to see how long these record transfers, season on season, get broken, how long it keeps happening. Everton fans probably are laughing at Liverpool right now because Liverpool fans, as a minority, that take the piss out of the Munich air disaster that happened for Man United. But when you take the piss out of Hillsborough, they get really shitty about it. But then they committed murder at Hazel and they killed, I think, 38 Juventus fans. They crushed them to death and they beat the shit out of them and threw them off the bloody stand. Yeah. Liverpool, that's why Liverpool are not liked as a fan base because of what they did in the 80s and their abuse of communicated disaster. And that's why Liverpool, and that's not all Liverpool fans, it is a minority. But no, Everton fans, they've shown some poor judgment this season as well with some of their antics. So, but both Merseyside clubs have sadly this season let their clubs down, with their fans being letting the clubs down. Minority of fans, but they have let the side down a little bit. They've shown themselves to be. I followed both teams' Twitters and the fan Twitters, like the fan TV Twitter feeds, and some of their fans really come out with some vile crap. And the majority are pissed off by it, and it says it's giving us a bad name. But yeah, Everton fans probably are laughing right now. But again, they haven't had a great season, so I don't know what they're laughing about. Both teams have not won anything this year. Everton have been terrible. Liverpool came up a bit short, but unfortunately, both sets of fans, there's a minority of both clubs, of fan base, have let the clubs down with some really crappy behaviour online and in the stadiums, and some of their rather stupid chanting, which is just moronic. It's sad. It's depressing. But it's not going to go away. What's the most fans of a team people that I subscribe to? I don't know is the answer to that one. I've not really asked people because I cover multiple sports. It's not just I cover football, I cover rugby league, or I cover cricket, or I cover motorsport, or rugby union, or ice hockey. So honestly, I could not tell you. We have a Hereford fan, we have a Rangers fan, we have shit. I think we've got a Roma fan somewhere floating around. We've got a couple of Dutch football fans floating around the channel somewhere. Honestly, could not tell you. I might have to do a poll or ask a question in one of my videos, but honestly, I don't know. But to me, it doesn't really bother me who supports what team. It really, really doesn't. I enjoy doing my little hobby because it's sort of grown on me, this little hobby, to a bit much. And my family keep giving me notepads, and I've worked out when I tell them to go away and I've got the door shut, not to come in because they know I'm recording. It is funny. I know I've got a couple of Juve fans floating around. I know I've got a couple of Lazio and Roma fan. I have a varied mix. I think I've got some fans from German football. Got some fans from Italian football. I've got a Huddersfield fan. I've got an Oxford United fan floating around the channel somewhere. The thing is, I don't really mind what teams you guys support because I know that's your club, that's your team. We've got a couple of Celtic fans on the channel, I think, as well. I think we've got an Aberdeen fan floating around. We've got a Livingston fan, St Johnstone, Kilmarnock. We've got a few of them. I don't mind what teams you guys support. This is a sports channel, so all teams are welcome, all clubs are welcome, all sports are welcome. But yeah, no, ice hockey, yeah, that's my favourite sport. And I've got a fair few NHL fans who come on. I mean, one of the early ones from Vegas, he was on earlier, asked a few of the early questions. I mean, I am a massive ice hockey fan. A few of my mates play it. My mate's brother used to play professionally for Bracknell back in the 90s in the Super League era, and then he went and played for Blackburn professionally in the Super League era, and he won the national title. So I've been around, you know, that sport for a while, and it's good fun to talk about it. But the hockey season is really over at the moment. It's just the NHL playoffs are about to finish with Vegas playing Washington. I think the first game's on Tuesday. So that's winding down. So there's only 2 weeks maximum left of the playoffs if it goes to 7 games. It is an interesting debating point. What fan bases are the most popular? I've got a lot of rugby league fans from Australia who are NRL fans who follow the channel. So Melbourne Storm and the Rabbitohs. We do have an NAC Braider fan somewhere on the channel, or did. But no, we do have a lot. And it's interesting. It's a good eclectic mix. It's a wide mix of various sports and various fan bases. That's good to see that we can have that sports banter without pushing it too far, like some of the idiots tonight. We had a few trolls tonight, and it's good to see such a wide variety of teams and team colours, and it's great. And I know not every viewer is going to agree with my point of view, or not everyone's going to agree with my view on a team or a fan base or a sport or individual, but that's that is, why I actually enjoy this channel, is because we've got a multitude of teams and team colours and fan bases. It's good. It's good. You'd be surprised how many Italians actually do speak English. Especially if they live in the touristy areas. Their English spelling may not be great, but they can understand the language. It's obviously when you're writing a question down in the chat, it's a little bit different than if you're asking the question verbally through, like, say we had a Skype type thing, which is really, I think YouTube should do like a Skype type thing like that. But it is interesting. I speak a very little bit because I lived in a touristy area a lot and spoke English, so I didn't really have to use Italian much. I can read Italian, I just can't speak it very well. I can read little bits of Italian, and I can understand little bits and pieces. But that is, something else. But yeah, no, final Newcastle back in 2002. Christ, that is going back some. I think I remember watching that on the TV. That was a long time ago. That's when Newcastle were good. But I can always do videos like revisiting games from the past, or a team, the Arsenal Invincibles. We could always do a video on something like that, because I like doing the club histories that I've started doing. I like doing the player profiles on the cricket players that I've been doing, because I like researching stuff, and I like looking at the facts and the figures and the stats and how they played and how they developed and how their career went and who they played for, and some of their appearance records and bowling figures or try records or goal scored or amount of clubs played for, amount of professional games they play, that kind of thing. Right, what is my most popular sport in both in terms of views and live stream topic? In terms of views, it's rugby league. If you look at my popular videos, I think out of the ones that are in the top 10, it's rugby league, cricket, and ice hockey. They're the three most popular for views. But it appears that on live stream topics, most of the questions are football. They have been tonight anyway. So if I'm going by tonight's live stream, most of it's been football based, because we've had the Champions League final this week, because we had the Europa League final last week, the FA Cup final a couple of weeks ago. There's been a lot of cup finals, the playoff finals going on. They have been discussion topics. The cricket's been quite popular as well. That's quite high up. We've had some cricket ones that have hit over 1,000 as well. That's an interesting question. It depends on what's really happening at the time, because I think my first live stream was 2 months ago now, something like that. I can't believe that's flown by. I did my first live stream in March, and I won't be keep. I'll be finishing up in about half hour, because I want to go back down the pub and enjoy my bank holiday, because it's still bloody warm. I can't sleep in this heat. How did I get my channel name? Well, that is an interesting one. I had my real name as my channel name, and I wasn't getting a lot of views, so I thought, sod it, let's make something a bit temporary but memorable. And I used my date of birth, which is 1989, and well, I've always been told I'm a bit of a bright spark, and I'm a bit of a boffin, and I like my sports, so I sort of went, sod it, I'll combine my being a bit of a boffin, being a bit of a knowledge freak, and my love of sports and my date of birth, and that's how it came about. That's how the channel name came out. Yeah, because it is memorable. I haven't found a similar channel name on YouTube, so it's unique. Much like how the content on the channel is a bit unique in the way that I cover it. But I sort of had to think of something that was gonna be memorable and different, because there's a lot of channels that are very similar channel names. And this is a sports channel, so have sports in the name makes logical sense. And 89, everyone loves a sports number, so I might get some t-shirts done, when I get a bit more the channel gets a bit bigger, I might get some t-shirts printed or something, or some. And it looks well. My little logo looks pretty with the little microphone and the SB89. It just goes really well. So I like how we've gone from um, a basic personal vlog to a sports discussion. I really should be a commentator. People said I should do radio or sports commentary. Um, but I don't think I could not swear. I mean, it's very hard for me when I'm doing my videos not to F and blind, especially when a player has done something really stupid, like Carrius last night. I was absolutely exploding with with swearing at my laptop screen. And when we had Lalana come on, I was just like, I was dropping F bombs all over the place. I've been told I could be very good at commentary, but at the same time, I think I might probably get taken off air very, very quickly for dropping a few F bombs in there and a few expletives, because I don't hold back, especially if I think a team is not trying, if a player is not putting the effort in. If a player is generally out of his depth or is having a shocker, I will be the type of person um, who will probably blow a gasket. Um, I but I've been told I could be very, very good at sports commentary and radio. I've been told that for years since I was a kid. Because my knowledge side of things, I do take notes. I I um I do look at stats, not religiously like some YouTubers do who have whiteboards and they go through all the stats of every career game played every season. But I will look at the overall career totals of a player, how many games they've played, how many goals they've scored, how many seasons they've played, injuries, suspensions, yellow cards, things like that in football. Same with ice hockey, suspensions, injuries, goals, assists, rugby, how many tries they've scored, if they're a goal kicker, how many conversions, how many drop goals. I'll look at individual stats for a game like tackles, passes, minutes played, things like that. But I won't go into it religiously. I'll just research it for a video. Really, it's become a hobby that's keeping my mind active because I was getting a little bit, um, from where I was to where I am now. I've come a long way. To Celtics fans, 1-0. As long as the sports banter stays pretty clean, I'm happy with a bit of ribbing on the old, bit of hazing on the old chat. It's when it gets a bit nasty that we've already had a few idiots tonight where we've had to step in and block them. And people ask me, like, want to volunteer to be moderators. I don't have any moderators at the moment. I think I can still keep my head on top of the chat for now. Because the channel's still small enough. But as the channel gets bigger, then I might have to get moderators. So we have to see, who could do that. Something else. But let's see if this chat's still working. Right. Okay. It's 9:30. It's still over 20 degrees. I am melting. But no. Any more questions? Because the videos I've done today. Someone kept asking if they would. Yeah. No. I think moderating, you have to be a hardcore subscriber, and most of you guys on the chat are hardcore subscribers who've been following the channel now for a while in the channel's lifetime. And because my channel is still small compared to some, I can stay on top of moderation myself. I can go through the comments later and I can find those idiots from earlier and hopefully block them, report them, whatever. But it is nice to see that some people are offering to assist, because I do think the few channels that I regularly communicate with you, and Mike, you're one of them, and there's a few others like Kemmel, who was on earlier, is the Chelsea fan, and there's a couple of other channels that aren't on tonight. I am happy to occasionally point out. I point out there's one channel called the Hockey Guy that I follow, and I was watching one of his videos and I looked at the chat and there was some really, really crappy stuff in the comments section of this video he posted. And I have him on Twitter, so I sent him a message on Twitter saying, "Look, I'm watching this video here. gave the link of the because he linked to his Twitter. I said you might want to have a little check with your moderators, and because he works the channel with his wife and your wife, because there are a few things that I feel that could escalate from what is pushing the boundaries to this is going to escalate because some things are going to get said. You could see that the thread was getting progressively on this section of the comments getting more and more not very pleasant. And I gave him a heads up, and he said, "Thanks for that. We nipped in the bud. Thank you very much." And I mentioned, "How do you choose your moderators?" And he was like, he explained that they have to be regular viewers who watch as many live streams as possible, etc., etc., etc. They have to meet certain criteria. And I said, I can't meet your criteria. He goes, why? Because I live on the other side of the world. Because he's based in Canada and I'm based here. But I would have happily moderated for him. But it's because of the time zone difference and where he lives and where I live, and the fact that now I have my new job and I'll be doing contract work over the summer, that I'm not going to be able to moderate for him when he does his live streams. And I would love to do that because he's helped my channel by purely, I've learned a lot from him, not directly asking him to help me, but his style of doing things, the way he also used to F-bomb a lot, and he's calmed down his swearing and really calmed down his channel a little bit. He's grown the channel massively to like 43,000 subscribers or something. This time last year, when I subscribed, he had 3,000. So he's really smashed the channel growth. And he's had an issue with this guy for the last 6 months, threatening him and his family, much like with these threats going. I'm gonna all about not to keep bugging him to moderate, but to do a particular video. And he said, I'll do it in time. I've got to go through a lot of video requests. I've given him some video requests. And the guy got really possessive, and then he started threatening his wife and his kids and him. And so he said to get the police involved. So you've got to be careful with the moderating thing as well. But if you guys see anything in the chat or whatever, you just report it. I try and keep it on top as possible, but I couldn't catch all of the Muppets in the chat there. Otherwise, that would delay the live stream with me constantly scrolling through all the comments, and that would take forever. But no, I mean, it's an interesting one having moderators, but I haven't gone on that option yet. I haven't come across a channel with moderators that have a dead chat, but I've only come across. I think I only watched 2 or 3 channels that have moderators. The ones like Mike and Kemmel, they are like me. They moderate the chat themselves. And if other viewers in the chat see something, then they, as a good community that we have here on this channel and other channels, sort of don't have the official moderators. They moderate themselves without being an official moderator. I have heard, though, that over moderation can kill a chat, where people are overly offended about stuff. But I haven't come across it myself. But it is an interesting topic. I think YouTube could do more when we have the ability to live stream. But we'll see. Right, these are 2 good questions. What are my plans for the World Cup in terms of video? I will try and cover as many games as possible. I will try and watch and cover as many games as possible. There'll be some games, because they're kicking off at, like, let's say 1 in the afternoon, and if I'm doing a contract job, I won't be able to watch, so therefore I'll only get the highlights. But I aim to cover. Oh, there's some lightning flashing. Oh, that's nice. And the thunderstorm has started. Yay, we have a thunderstorm. There's a big thunderstorm about 5 miles from my house, and it's to the north. Oh, there is some arcing lightning. Okay, with the thunderstorm coming, this live stream may end soon if the thunderstorm gets very close, because this will surge through my computer, and then I'll be a little bit electrocuted, and it may blow the computer up. So if I do have to sub in the chat, it's because of the weather, because the weather is starting to get bad again. But let's have a look. I'll try and do as many videos as possible on each day of the World Cup, so I'll cover as many matches as I can. When it comes to the end of the group stages, when they play the 2 matches at the same time, that gets a little bit more difficult, because I've got 2 TVs downstairs, but they're in 2 different rooms, and my aunt will be staying with me, so I don't want to piss her off, because she's obviously got to do her work as well for her company, and I don't want to have to run around a lot and disturb her too much, and she's got to look after her kids as well. So I'll do my best. I will cover most of the games as I possibly can, and I will do a video each night at least, just to cover the games that we've had, the results, to look through, and I'll try and watch as many live games as possible. It'll just be me and my aunt, so we do have less use of the internet, so the internet signal should be all right, and I'll have a bit more peace and quiet in the house to do longer live streams, more videos. do videos later in the night, so some late night live streams if people around the world. So it's going to be a busy summer. But I do want to cover like the Wimbledon. I do want to cover the F1 occasionally. Ricardo Winter Days made it a bit more interesting, even though I'm still not happy with it. I want to cover the touring cars, the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the transfer market. There's going to be other sports stories like the Tour de France that will be happening this summer that I also want to look at. I don't want to just go straight for the World Cup by itself. There are other sports that also need covering, like the State of Origin in the NRL. I'll try and see if I can get some coverage on that. But it's going to be dominating, yes. Unglamorous club like Rotherham. I wouldn't say Rotherham are small, but they have had financial issues in the past where they didn't have their own stadium. They had to play in Sheffield, not Rotherham, at the Athletic Stadium for a while. They've had some money issues. That is some lightning. Oh, the lightning is getting close, and it's wow. If I turn my light off, you will see the flashing out there. You will see. I don't want to move my laptop, but I'm turning the light off because there is so much lightning going on. It's going to light up the sky the darker it gets. It's not really. I think it's better with the light on. Yeah. No, I was just trying to show you the lightning and it didn't work. They do stand a chance if they keep a lot of that core together, and they. But it's the transfer market because now it's so overinflated. It's harder for the smaller budget teams to actually get a team that can be competitive at whatever level it may be. But we've seen with other teams having like over exceeding, like Shrewsbury this season, meant to struggle at the bottom end of the League One, got to playoff final, finished third overall in the league. I think that is a lot of lightning. Wow, that is a storm. I'm going out tonight. I'm going to get soaked. Hey, it will be interesting. I think they can be competitive as possible. I don't think they're going to be no hopers, but we have to see the transfer window and how other clubs adapt to life in the Championship who got relegated and those who else who got promoted as well, such as Blackburn, my team, and Wigan. We have to see how all three clubs who went up adapt, and we've got to see how all three clubs who got relegated adapt, and that is that's the important thing. I look at each brand new season as a clean slate, but we also have to look how teams finished the previous season, and they can take a lot from that playoff final. That's a lot of money they've just earned. It's the richest game in world football. Is the Championship playoff final. It's worth the most. So that money is going to go straight into paying off some of the club's debts, getting some players, and looking forward. Yeah, Scotland has had a heat wave, and it's been really. Oh God, that lightning is really going for it now. That thunderstorm last night lasted like 4 hours, so we're expected to have another 2 days worth of this. That's a big flash. But if I have to end the live stream early, it's because of the weather, because really that can affect the internet connection and power cuts and all sorts. And I don't want the power to go out mid live stream because that would be absolutely chaos because I can't upload it. Right, as it's 22 and I want to go to the pub before it closes, I'll take 5 more questions and then we'll call it a night. Because I know it's a Sunday and it's a nice bank holiday and we want to obviously all have an epic weekend and have some fun. God, that thunderstorm was really annoying me. It's just I've got a window open. But no, to the question with do I think Rotherham can stand a chance? Yes, I do think they can stand a chance. The Championship is but you've got to look at the teams that got relegated last year from the Premier League and how they actually struggled. Look at Sunderland, they just plummeted. So I think yes, Rotherham do have a chance. It's all about how they use this transfer market and how much of that team that played so well in League One this year they can keep. And it's all about what they think is achievable. Because we saw with Yeovil when they went up from League Two, League One to Championship very, very quickly, they could not sustain going up and they went straight back down the leagues, back into League Two. So, but we've seen with teams before they can go up the leagues and then stay up the leagues as well. So I won't write them off, but we have to see how they did in the pre-season. We have to see how they start the season and go from there. Yes, Sunderland did have a deal on money problems, but when Ellis Short sold the club, he decided to pay all the debts off. Why did he not do that sooner? I have no idea. Sunderland have been badly run for a long time. They've had a high manager turnover. Um, the Adam Johnson, which got mentioned earlier, how they handled that situation was not well handled. They haven't replaced key players that have been sold, like Henderson. Lee Cattermole as captain regularly got sent off. So they had a leadership crisis. Players just did not perform. They bought a lot of Premier League players that had been in the league a long time, that were near the end of their careers, and expected these veteran like Wes Brown and John O'Shea to be a rock in defence when actually their legs had gone. So God, that is some lightning, isn't it? That is a storm, bigger than last night. Woo. Nice sweaty evening. Sunderland. The reason why Sunderland struggled is partly transfer policies flawed. The way they handled the Adam Johnson scandal, completely mess. They've gone through Manning, they've gone through Di Canio, Gus Poyet, Big Sam. I think Big Sam was there. Peter Reid, Mick McCarthy, good manager. Roy Keane, he had a decent spell. Decent spell. I'm not knocking Roy Keane now. He had a decent spell with them. Didn't end nicely. You had McCarthy, Roy Keane, Peter Reid, Di Canio, Gus Poyet. They were going through managers like it was just, you know, like how often you would change your shirt or have a haircut. They were doing it so regularly that they had no long-term plan. They were always struggling to stay up, and then when it all went wrong, it went down the crapper. Hello. Yeah, there are some subscribers who haven't been on live stream for a while or been on the channel for a while, so it's nice to see you know, some of the regulars back and some of the early people from the channel's early days back. And yeah, right. We did have a great season. We couldn't quite catch Wigan. We just slipped up, once or twice at the wrong time. But we had a very good run on a really good run, and I'm hoping next season we can just be competitive in the championship. I'm not expecting us to shoot up to the playoffs straight away. I'm expecting us to be about mid-table, and I'm expecting us to be solid as a Blackburn fan. But it is what it is. Right, I'll take 4 more questions after this one, and then we'll call it a night because it's 1:45. And that is a big one. Sorry, the thunder and lightning is brilliant right now. I've never done a live stream in a thunderstorm before. This is amazing. It's just amazing. I wish I could get my laptop turned, but I don't think my cable can go far enough. Actually, I'm right. Right, if you want to see the thunderstorm, we're going for a little wander. Right, if you look behind me, out there, I'm going to turn the light off. I'm going to show you the thunderstorm because really, this is amazing. All you got to do is just look behind me, above my head, and there's a thunderstorm out there. You see that? That's what's happening about 5 miles north of my house. That is a massive thunderstorm. I'm trying. It's really difficult because of the angle to do that. There. That's the thunderstorm behind my house. Well, in front of my house. That's about 4 or 5 miles to the north. It's sheet lightning, so it doesn't make the thundering crack as much, but it is beautiful to watch. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And we're only in the last week of May. We've got June, July, and August and September to go yet. I love thunderstorms. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, I'll do the last couple of questions, and then before this thunderstorm blows up my house, because we've got a tall tree behind the room I normally do my videos in. Out the back of that is a massive tree that is 60 foot tall. And you can see the trees opposite me. They're quite tall as well, and they could get hit. And that's what I'm worried about. And you can hear my neighbour's dogs going mad as well if you listen carefully enough. Right, okay, last few questions we've got to do. Okay, we've got a West Brom fan. Okay, I do think West Brom, yes, with Darren Moore in charge, yes, you can go back up, but they got to give him time. This is mad. Yeah, you got to give Darren more time. He did very well at the end of the season. I felt they should have possibly got him in the job earlier. I think the Pardew experiment didn't work. I think they left Pulis in a season. Pulis should have gone at the beginning before the season started. I think Darren Moore should have been given time earlier. and you would have stayed up. But yeah, I think with the momentum you have, you can come straight back up. You're big enough. I think a few squad changes are needed and a bit of investment. But I'm not a West Brom fan, although I have worked in Handsworth in Birmingham, so I know where the ground is. I've been to the ground. I used to stay near the ground in a hotel with work, so with one of my old jobs. So I do know the area of West Bromwich, Castle Bromwich, quite well. Nice stadium. I actually like the stadium. I think it's a great little stadium that you got there. Never going to ask me else, so I can't wait to go watch West Brom and Blackburn. Yeah, no, that will be a good game. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've had a West Brom Blackburn game. Yeah, I'm hopeful that I can possibly go see some Blackburn games this season, like away at Reading, for example, because I live near Reading, so I could possibly go see a Blackburn Reading game away. Yes, Handsworth B21. What a shithole. It's Beirut, isn't it? Yeah, I did some work in Handsworth for a while. And I never want to go there ever again. It's not a nice place. No, yeah. If the primary school in Handsworth has got gun detectors on top for gunshots, you know it's not a nice place to go. Right, now that we've seen the thunderstorm, I'm gonna head back to the table. So bear with me. I've got to turn my light back on and see where I'm walking. There's got a chair in the way. Almost lost the laptop. That would have been a 500 quid mistake. There we go. But I'm gonna take. How many more questions have we got? We've got. So I'll take a couple of questions and then we're gonna call it a night. I would prefer it. I mean, I know we've discussed a lot of football, and I don't mind talking about. Where's my plug? Oh, there's my phone charger. Cables. But yeah, that's the thunderstorm, and it's actually slowly getting closer and closer to my house, that thunderstorm. So I'm gonna end the live stream in a minute and get my pub gear on and get suited and booted and go on the old pool. But no, well, there we go. That's better. But yeah, that's what the thunderstorm's doing, and it's getting inching ever closer to my house. The Super Kings, the Chennai Super Kings won. They've already won it. They won it earlier today. They beat Hyderabad by 9 wickets. So yeah, I thought I should tell you that they've already played the game. They played the game about 6 hours ago, and the Super Kings won by nine wickets. Very dominant performance in the final. I saw a few of the little highlights on the news. They absolutely wiped the floor with the Sunrisers. Wiped the floor with them. They completely. Oh yeah, there is corruption in the IPL. Srisanth, fast bowler, one of my favourite fast bowlers, and this is where I have concerns about certain sports. Srisanth was one of my favourite Indian fast bowlers. Bit of a playboy, bit of a maverick, exceptionally talented bowler, and yeah, he was done for match fixing. I think 2-3 years ago, and got put in prison and banned for life. So yeah. Well, here's the thing: the ICC and India don't really get on. Ironically, the ICC has burnt a lot of bridges with the various Test playing teams. Because I class the West Indies as a multitude of nations, because the West Indies is the Caribbean, and there's multiple independent countries that make up the West Indies Test side. Hence why the West Indies are so divided at the moment with their Test side, and they're not all the players getting on, because you've got Jamaicans, Barbadians, Guyanans, Grenadans, all that, and they all don't like each other because of their regional cricket, first class cricket. They don't all like each other. India have issues with the ICC on different reasons, but that storm is getting close. I might have to end the live stream in a bit because that is getting closer. Some big lightning. Shane Watson is a very, very good player. The ICC and India have a very strange relationship, and the ICC is running out of friends in international Test cricket. They pissed off the Australians. Pakistanis don't like them. The Test playing countries and the Test playing teams as a multitude of nations, they don't all get on with the ICC all the time. There are issues with the ICC and the governance and the structures of it, and it's the same with the governing bodies of each Test team as well. The ECB needs structural reform, definitely. But right, enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your bank holiday, wherever you are in the world, or if you've got to go to work tomorrow, I feel your pain. But I don't. But no, thanks for joining the live stream tonight. It's been great having a couple of new faces in here, and some good questions. Okay, I'll do the Shane Watson question. Yes, he is a good player. I think it's a shame he's no longer playing test matches, but he's worked out his career that a 5-day test match his body just cannot take, and I don't blame him for giving it a go at Test cricket and saying right now that part of my career is done. I'm going to focus on the shorter forms of the game because I can still contribute to the teams that I play for more effectively. That's why I like the 3 different formats: T20, 50 over, and a lightning bolt is hit very close and has burnt something. Yeah, you can smell the burns. A lightning bolt was hit not too far away. I think it's hit a tree or something because I can smell the electrical burn and the wood burn. Something's hit nearby. All that's tasty thunderstorm haze. That is getting very powerful. That storm, and it's not a lot of rain. It's not raining outside. It is just arcing lightning. That's what's epic about this electrical storm. No, yeah, Shane Watson. He's contributing at the shorter forms of the game. And that's why I like all 3 forms of the game, because some players are better at Test cricket for a period of their career. Some players are better at the shorter formats, and then they get pushed into one days, and then the Test level or the county first class level. I'm not so sure in Australia at the moment. I think what happened with that ball tampering scandal in South Africa has undermined the trust in Cricket Australia with the fans and the players. But England at the moment aren't a good side at the moment. So yeah, I do sort of agree that you have that better youth development, and they don't throw the players on it. When a player has a rough patch, they don't necessarily chuck him under a bus. They give him time to adapt to Test cricket or adapt to being selected for the side for the first time in a while. England, they're very too quick to hire and bring up and then drop players too quickly, rather than keep them around the squad, coach them a bit better, work out their strengths and weaknesses, and get those weaknesses to strengths. So when they're having a struggle outside off stump, just help them off outside off stump. If they're struggling with a spin bowler, how do you combat that spin bowler? If they're struggling with seam swing, when do they leave? When do they go for the ball? That kind of thing. I think that's where England are failing in the batting coaching, the fielding, and the bowling coaching. Okay, the event is still die. Yeah. Tyson Fury return. It's on BT Sport, so won't be able to watch it. And to be honest, I don't particularly like Tyson Fury as a person, but because he's had to deal with mental health issues and drug addiction, which personally in my life I've had to deal with my friends and myself, for him to be as honest about that, I say fair play to him. But I don't always agree on some of his personal opinions on women, religion, place of women in society, things like that, homosexuals. But I think he does deserve to get back to the sport that he clearly loves. And he admitted straight up, I have an issue with drugs. It wasn't like he got caught. He came up and admitted, I'm having issues with my mental health and addiction. And he got thrown under the bus. He got a longer ban than Zach Hardacre has. That is not right. Zach Hardacre, rugby league player, gets a shorter ban by getting caught. Tyson Fury comes out and admits, before he gets tested, by the way, I've been struggling with drugs, alcohol, and depression, gets thrown under the bus. I think it's part of his personality and the media perception of him. The boxing threw him under the bus. He admitted he was on cocaine and amphetamines. He admitted in a press conference, he came out and said, I'm having issues with Class A drugs. No boxer would do crack, because that destroys your lungs far quicker than coke. It really kills you. I've had a few friends who've been crack addicts, and I can tell you now, no sportsman will do crack. Amphetamines and normal cocaine, yes. Crack cocaine, no. Just someone who knows a little bit about addiction and has been to meetings and has been an addict, I know a fair bit about it. A pro sportsman wouldn't do crack, but they would do pure cocaine or well, not I would say pure cocaine, but cocaine as we would know it, and amphetamines. And he came out and said, "Yeah, I'm having a problem." And the sport threw him under the bus. That's why I've sort of lost a bit of love with certain sports, because they regularly throw players under the bus when they do say, "I have an issue, can you help me?" Yeah, we'll screw you over. BT Sport, great. Yeah, it's going to rip us off some more. BT Sport's coverage is appalling. Having watched the 2 European Cup finals on their YouTube live feed, the commentary was crap. The fact they don't have a dedicated full-time BT Sport press team, they have to nick them from the BBC, Sky, and ITV for the individual games, is not great. It shows that they haven't got a long-term plan, having their own presenters and pundits in the sports they cover. apart from Jake Humphrey, and I forget who the bird's name was. The girl who helped present the Europa League final, Robbie Savage. She was useless. I know she's doing a job, but my God, she's out of her depth. Did not know enough about the sport she was covering. Looked uncomfortable. Looked nervous. BT Sports coverage is absolutely appalling, but that's why my internet bill keeps going up, because they're propping up a failing TV company. Lindsay Hipko. She's very attractive. I'm not saying she's thick. She's very, very intelligent, but she seemed nervous. She seemed out of her depth. She wasn't sure on, how to do pitch side commentary when she's doing a preview. She didn't seem 100% confident. I think because Jake Humphrey and her are the only two, I think, permanent BT Sport people that I saw on those two cup finals. The Europa League, they didn't even have them at the stadium. They had them in a studio in London. That shows complete lack of foresight. They're getting so much money out of this TV deal. You would think they would have what they did for the Champions League with Gary Lineker and those pundits in a little studio in a box. No, they had them hundreds of miles away. Very poor. Yet my internet bill keeps going up, and we're part of the BT group. My phone bill is going to be going up from next year to cover the losses that BT Sport is making. I think they peaked their biggest viewership ever has been 100,000 on the channel on BT Sport. 100,000 viewers. They only got 80,000 for Tottenham Arsenal beginning of this season or last season. 80,000 viewers for Tottenham Arsenal. North London derby only get 80,000 people to watch. If that is on free to air, you might get 100 plus thousand minimum on a bad day. It's poor quality. It makes Sky look professional, and Sky is not great itself. Sky Cricket's not too bad at a push, and Sky's crap. BT makes Sky look good, because Sky and BT really dumb it down, and they think we're thick. And it's kind of patronising. Listen to it. Their commentary. The mainstream commentators come across and very patronising, and they basically assume that we are thick, and that's really, really poor. I don't know. I mean, there are still the Premier League and the FA are going to announce the unsold TV packages for those, I think, 46 games. I'm hoping they go free to air, because Amazon, the FA and Premier League overestimate what Amazon were going to pay for the whole thing. And they completely screwed up that deal. Twitter are interested in getting rights. What does that mean? Does that mean we're going to get free to air on Twitter, where we can just watch a live stream on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube? Because here's the thing: people do not want to pay for subscription sport. They want it free, because fans have had enough being priced out of the stadiums where they can't watch in person. So they want to watch it on TV, but then they're getting priced out of watching it on TV. And then I'm seeing a lot of pushback now on fan forums, on websites that have the comment section where you can, if they print a story saying TV rights deal or this player, a lot of the criticism is about the TV rights and how we have to pay too much for it, and reducing quality. Box Nation's crap as well. I don't like pay-per-view sport. Box office sport is really failing. The Sky box office for boxing is getting less and less viewers. Same with BT. Same with ITV. The ITV box office is crap. And the viewership is doing that. And then this is why McGregor Mayweather happened, just to try and bump up their, try and bump up their viewership figures. I know ITV have done it with YouTube. BT Sport done it with YouTube. They have done a few events on YouTube, and I think that the channels are realizing we don't want to pay for pay-per-view or subscription sport anymore. 18 million households in the UK refuse to do it, or physically can't afford to do it. And I don't understand how we're getting mugged off for ticket prices at all sports now, right? Okay, we're getting really mugged off at the gate at stadiums for ticket prices, especially for football. And cricket's starting to get questioned as well. And since 2008, wages haven't grown very much, and some wages have shrunk in certain industries. So it's getting to a point where it's crisis crunch point. And there's been a lot of pushback now from people saying we've had enough, we're not paying for it anymore. We refuse, because Rupert Murdoch, he's not very popular, and people keep complaining about him, but enough people keep buying Sky Sports packages for him to keep getting the rights to Premier League football. and people keep buying his newspapers, and Rupert Murdoch and his media group has proven they're not fit to have a media license with the news of the world. BT Sport is propped up by the fact they have the BT Internet and EE and BT Mobile and phone services. That's what's propping it up. I wouldn't be surprised if the competition regulator does force a full split, and then BT Sport has had it. But then that's going to have a knock-on effect for Scottish football, English football, European football. You've got to look at Setanta in Scotland. What happened to Gretna, Rangers, Dunfermline, Livingston, I think Dundee or Dundee United, I'm not sure which one, Hearts, Hibs. When Setanta collapsed, it had a knock-on effect for years. Same with ITV Sport, that failed miserably about 15 years ago, which led to Setanta picking up the crap that Sky didn't want. Setanta failed. BT, the only reason why it survives is because its parent company is an internet and mobile phone provider that also owns EE, which is also in breach of monopoly regulations, competition regulations in the mobile phone industry. I wouldn't be surprised if the regulator says you've got to split this company up further. And if the Labour Party get in, they'll want to nationalise everything, and then that will have to be ad-free, and it will have to be free to air. So BT Sport is going to die at some point. Yes, I'm also glad the World Cup is on terrestrial TV. Same for, I think the Cricket World Cup next year might be on terrestrial. I think BBC have won the rights to it, which is good. And I think the Rugby Union terrestrial, by ITV, the World Cup, ITV and BBC for Six Nations, which is good. Channel 4 have got some of the Wales Rugby Union games this summer in South Africa on the telly, which is good. Let's see how Channel 4 do, because they've never done rugby before. This could be interesting for Channel 4 because their F1 coverage is crap. Their horse racing was crap, and at the end they lost that. They lost the Italian football to Channel 5. So I'm a bit worried about Channel 4 getting the rugby rights, but we'll see how Channel 4 do. So they've had the Paralympics now for about a good 3 Paralympics now, so we'll see how they do. No, BT will collapse. BT Sport will collapse. They really are not on the same level as Sky, and Sky are poor quality, but Sky have reformed their structures. Sky eventually will go free to air. You just have to buy the Sky set-up box, like an Xbox. You'll have to buy a set-up box and an initial installation fee, but eventually Sky will go free because Comcast wants to buy it. It's because of economics as well. Ad revenues are down, and that's been going on because the terrestrial channels did have a lot of the European football. They had all the Rugby League World Cup in England. Now they only have half of it. What's happened is since the financial crash, that has affected it. So they have less money going in with ad revenue because ad revenues are down. However, it's starting to slowly go the other way because ad revenues on TV are picking up. So we shall see what happens. Plus, sports fans have had enough of paying, so there is a chance for more rights to be snapped up by the terrestrial companies. But BT is going to collapse. BT Sport will collapse. I can see the media regulator forcing a separation from BT Sport from the BT parent company. I can see a separation, and then it won't be able to survive. It cannot. It's even smaller than Setanta was, and it's worse quality. And I think Comcast wants to buy Sky, and the regulator is trying to stop Rupert Murdoch getting full control of Sky, which is his company anyway, but it's complicated because of Fox. If Comcast, wow, that was a big one. I think a tree got hit, lightning storm. If Comcast, which is an American company, gets hold of Sky, we may have it on free to air. Anderson, I think he's near the end of his career. Broad's just turned 30, so just above 30. So Broad's got a while to go. Anderson, I think maybe this could be his last summer series, maybe next year. The issue is they've overused them in press situations because the other bowlers haven't stepped up to the plate. Or their batsmen, more often it's the batsmen not stepping up, have failed to deliver with the bat, so they have to deliver with the ball more. It's a balance issue in the side as well. Moeen Ali can get a 5-wicket haul. He's not been well treated by the selectors or the coaches over the Ashes in this period, and he was dropped in the New Zealand series over the winter. Comcast owns NBC. NBC is part of the Comcast group, yes. Comcast has some of the rights to the Washington Capitals games because the TV company, I think NBC, yes. So we might get because I think can't remember if it's CBS or NBC we get some of the American channels over here on Freeview now. I'm hoping if Comcast gets the rights to Sky and buy Sky, it will become set-up box free to air. I'm so hoping that happens. When that happens, I would happily get Sky then. But I'm not getting Sky now. I'm not paying Rupert Murdoch any money. The guy's a crook. He's proven he, his family, and his companies are not fit to run media companies in this country. But the government doesn't do anything about it because they're too deep with them. I think Broad has got a bit of while left in him. I think his batting's deserted him over the years, and I think that's part of the batting coaches. They force him to bowl too much, so when he comes to bat, he's too tired. Anderson, he's near the end of his career. He's a legend of the sport, and he will retire when he thinks he's fit enough to say that's enough for me. But I think Anderson's on his last legs, not in a bad way. I think he's near the end of his career naturally. Right, I'm gonna answer these last few questions, and then we're going to call it a night because the weather is really deteriorating outside. But let's I can answer the last question now. So that's all the questions now, and I'll go through them. Yes, I can also agree. I can see BT Sport collapsing at a horrific loss, and it will be damaging for many sports in this country and in Europe. Who's going to take his place for Anderson? Roland Jones. There you go. There's your answer. Roland Jones will get back into the side when he's fit because he's very good swing bowler. He's a bit older when he came to the game, but he's got pace. He can bat higher up the order. So that takes some of the pressure off some of the other tail because he can get a 30, 40 runs here. He's very good in first-class cricket. He's just had an injury at the moment. So that's why he missed the Ashes, which was a shame because I think he should have gone. But I think Roland Jones is, I think, the best bowling depth we have because he showed last summer he was very, very good. And he did get injured, which was unfortunate. But he could also bat as well, which is something England need. Yes, Comcast is tied with NBC. I don't go to the Summer Bash because I just don't have the time. I would love to go to a game in Surrey, but I just don't have the time. And they also cover the Chicago Blackhawks. The batting isn't good enough. That's why the bowlers have to put the effort in, and a lot of the all-rounders such as Moeen Ali, Ben Stokes, Stuart Broad. I would class Broad as an all-rounder because he can bat and he has proven he can get a Test century. Long time ago, mind, early in his career, and his batting has deserted him because he's overused as a bowler, so he's very, very tired. He has to do a lot of bowling. He's the second strike bowler. He covers second most overs. He is overused as well. That's affected his batting. Cook, he's lost all form. They're catching. That's to do with coaching as well. The coaching setup and the selecting setup needs to have a complete overhaul. US networks. Okay, the newest networks. Okay, well, I can talk about the Stanley Cup, the NHL playoffs, because I know a lot about this. When Winnipeg, my team, these guys, played Nashville, who are an American team, 11 million Canadians watched that playoff series. That's a third of Canadians. Only just over 1 million Americans watched it because you've got the networks, and then you have the regional stations that will cover the regional games, such as Chicago, such as Washington Capitals. So you won't have a national network as such. They'll give you an option of, we'll cover 5 games tonight in Chicago, Detroit, because you've got the Fox networks as well. And they're half decent. The Fox Sport network and the NBC networks are quite good. They are quite good. But it's their commentary that's a little bit on the annoying side. Just a little bit. You've got the NESN, the New England Sports Network. I hate their commentary. Their commentary is so biased, it's unreal. Because you have the colour commentator, who's the ex-player, and you have the play-by-play, and then normally homers. They support the home team too much. What else we got? But no, the NHL numbers, the viewing's down this season in America, but it's up in Canada. But then the playoff numbers are up across the board, partly because of Vegas. It does vary from location to location. So LA, great numbers. Chicago, brilliant numbers. Nashville, okay. Carolina, terrible. So it depends on A, the sport they're covering, and B, the regional coverage and the setup. It really does. It's so variable in the US. But I know about the viewing numbers for the playoffs, and they're up. And if a third of Canadians are watching a Canadian team, doesn't matter if it's the team they support or not, against an American team, that shows that fans across a country can buy in to that team. So the Winnipeg Jets from Manitoba, most Canadian fans support Toronto. But 11 million Canadians went, sod it, we're going to watch this team give it a go against Nashville, the 2 best teams in the NHL this season, having a go in a 7-game series. And there you go. Yeah, that when I watched the hockey guy do his video on the viewing figures, that was up to this point. Now the Vegas Jets series has finished. Now those viewing numbers are in. That shows even more people were watching, and the Vegas fans as well. So you had 12 million Canadians and 2 million Americans. That's the high. That's why the viewing figures are up. But it varies from location to location. Unless you get the NHL network, which gets universal coverage, and you get the blackout games when it's out of it's silly, really. I haven't played FIFA. I don't really play FIFA. I don't like sports games on the Xbox. I prefer Call of Duty and GTA on the Xbox. I've gone off the sports games because they're too generic now. But yeah, right, okay. As the thunderstorm has got progressively closer to my house, and really I can smell the electrical burn. I'm going to call that a night. Thank you to everyone who participated tonight. It was a very, very good live stream. We had lots of numbers, lots of questions, had a couple of idiots again. But I will answer about Pakistani's young team. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the highlights. I think the Pakistani players, their victory over Ireland in the one-off test, that's given them a bit of a boost because they were playing a very motivated, unknown side. They didn't know what to expect. They're playing in a ground they never played before in conditions that are a bit different to here in England because Ireland's further west, so they get more of a stronger breeze over Ireland, and slightly different conditions. They adapted to the Dublin conditions very well, beat Ireland, and it was a very good test match as well because I watched as much of the game as possible on highlight streams. And the Irish gave them a very good test. But they've dominated this test match. They came out, they were on top bowling straight away, and then they dominated the batting, and batting is their weakness, and their fielding is meant to be a weakness, and they didn't show any weakness in the field with the bat or with the ball. So they look, I think they're favourites going into the second test, but I can see that possibly being a draw with the weather conditions being changeable. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate everyone tonight. I'm going to get ready to go out before I melt because I'll probably warmer outside than in, but it's over 20 degrees in my house. It's warmer in my house than outside, but we're still in the mid-20s here. And yeah, we'll have some more videos for you tomorrow. I'll be looking at some of the sports stories that are coming through, and I'll do some more team histories and stuff. And obviously, I've got some build up to the World Cup. And yeah, there'll be some more live streams next weekend because I've got to work. I've got to juggle work. I've got to be up early for work on Tuesday morning at 5. So we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks with the contract at my job. See if we're staying there longer or not. If we're not staying there long term, then I can focus on this. If I've got an extra couple of weeks or months on that contract, then if it's a rolling contract, then that's a bit different. But night all, thank you very much, and I shall see you guys tomorrow.